issue is that the actual video has no sound, so it's not recording with sound. So I didn't know if we wanted to take a recess and wait for Mark to fix that, or if we wanted to continue on because our reading up here, the equipment is reading for the minutes.
I think we should give an opportunity to fix it. 5 minutes isn't gonna hurt nothing.
Okay. All right, well, we good for with like 5-minute recess? Or until he's done?
Somebody just texted me and said the sound is on.
Oh, is it on now?
What I'm hearing.
It's on? All right, then we don't have to. Okay, great. Continuing on, we'll move over to the transfer and appropriation agenda.
Transfers for County General. We will start with Jail 145, salaries and wages. 144-101 Corporal, negative 2,482. 153-101 Correctional Officer, negative 1,880. 134-101 Correctional Officer, negative 3,040. 139-101 Correctional Officer, negative 4,130. 142-101 Correctional Officer, negative 2,330. 123-101 Correctional Officer, negative 5,374. 130-101 Correctional Officer, negative 2,730. 100-101 Captain, negative 1,043. 102-101 Lieutenant, negative 1,999. 104 Sergeant, negative 1,607. 108-101 Corporal, negative 1,783. 114-101 Correctional Officer, negative 3,115. 125-101 Correctional Officer, positive 304. 127-101 Correctional Officer, positive 1,348. 143-101 Correctional Officer, positive 251. 150-101 Correctional Officer, positive 10. 126 Overtime, positive 25,008. 119 Holiday Pay, positive 4,592, with a total of 0.
I will make the motion to approve.
I will second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Do we have any questions? It's mostly just moving excess salary around.
Yeah, how long will this overtime transfer last you?
That's a good question, but I'm hoping we don't have to come back and ask for it to move again. I always hate saying this. We are only short one person, so in the jail, that's fantastic. So we shouldn't have the overtime like what we had.
Thank you.
How many openings do we have?
For the jail,
Mhm.
1. For the road,
1.
1.
So these are all from earlier on in the year?
Yes, I do this typically right now, and then I may do it again. If we look like we're gonna be running short, I'll run the lines all over again, make sure there's enough there. If there's excess, I'll move it to overtime, but knock on wood, I think we're gonna be fine.
Just for the record, if anybody's not familiar with what we're talking about, these are positions that were budgeted for. The employees weren't hired, or they were open for whatever reason, so that money wasn't spent. So she's transferring that money to be spent for overtime. So that's what that is in the next couple of readings that we're gonna go over. It may sound just like numbers, but that's what it is.
Any further questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. And just a reminder, or I guess a note, everything in the transfer section was favorable with the Finance Committee.
Okay. Sheriff 129, salaries and wages. 143-101 Deputy, negative 15,390. 152-101 Deputy, negative 1,500. 142-101 Deputy, negative 12,781. 138,101 deputy, negative 12,323. 133,101 deputy, negative 1,100. 129,101 deputy, negative 5,754. 123,101 deputy, negative 780. 121,101 sergeant, negative 746. 118,101 corporal, negative 12,384. 117,101 corporal, negative 13,848. 113,101 captain, negative 8,949. 110,101 sergeant, negative 5,373. 109,101 lieutenant, negative 15,213. 114,101 corporal, positive 2,355. 119,101 sergeant, positive 255. 122,101 corporal, positive 2,432. 126 overtime, 76,606. 119 holiday pay, 24,493, with a total of 0.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is more of the same, just taking excess salaries and moving it to overtime and holiday pay. Do we have any questions?
Quick question.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask the same question for the, sheriff's department. How many openings do we have?
1.
Thank
People
you.
who were promoted obviously had less time than the people who had left. That's why there was excess on their salaries.
Thanks.
120, I think we budgeted 125,000 for overtime for sheriff's department, so
I don't
where are
anticipate using this, all of this, honestly. It's just I'd rather have it there and not have to scramble in the end if we do for some ungodly reason.
do you know how much you've used to date?
I think we were right on track. Are we supposed to be at like 56% or 58%, something like that? We're right on track. But we also have the main holidays and the main things coming up too, so.
Okay.
I would rather have it there and not need it, and then it just goes back to the general fund than me have to try to move it in a rush.
Any additional questions?
Educate me again, if you would please, on where all this overtime is coming in.
Explain, what do you mean?
What's causing it?
Well, we had been short. We may be at full staff right now, but of the deputies that we have hired, 4 of them didn't have the academy. So they all had to go to the academy. They're still being paid. That left the shifts short, which meant we would have to have overtime in order to keep all the minimum staffing on the road for the deputies. So as they're coming back out of the academy, even though they're finished, they still can't work on their own because they have to finish their field training.
Who sets the minimum staffing? How does that work?
I believe the sheriff does that.
I think you said the academy is like 20 weeks.
Yes. If we had lateral transfers, that was one thing, but these last ones that have been hired were not laterals. They're all brand new people who've not been to the academy before or been deputies, so.
So just as of July 31st, the year-to-date expense was 97,229 out of the 125 grand, so 77% as of middle of the year.
But again, that should start slowing back down
Right.
now that they're coming back out. We just got 2 out of the academy. 2 more, however, did just leave, and we still have 1 more to go. We're still leaving us with 1 opening.
Why are they leaving?
63.
Leaving to go to the
They're going to the academy. We just got 2 people back from the academy, and we had 2 more that just left on Monday. So they left for the academy and will be gone for the 20 weeks. And then we still have 1 more that was just hired. He's not had the academy yet either, but he'll have to wait till the next session, which is December, January, when the next one would start.
What is your turnover rate?
I mean, I can't really, I don't.
I mean, I know the jail has a higher turnover rate, correct?
Correct.
And so deputies in the field, turnover rate,
During the last year, we've had several,
several meaning,
probably 12, 10, 12.
At budget time, could you let me know a little closer number to that, please? Thank you.
You just want for the year, or you want for
Yeah, year would be
this
fine.
year? Okay.
And then for
So-
overtime for the jail, you're at 63% as of July 31st, so of 255,169.72.
Yeah, they're actually in better shape. They've been doing much better.
When you do that, actually bring the year before as well. I wanna see what the comparison is versus the previous year before we made the salary adjustments.
Okay.
So we made significant salary adjustments. I wanna see what kind of impact that's having on retention.
Last year, they didn't get anything
It was the year
for this
prior.
year, so it'd be, you probably want me to go back.
22.
Yeah,
So just a 3-year,
yeah, I
Period.
can do that. How many we
I
lost
mean, I
each
can
year?
tell if you only got one position, what direction it's going, but you were usually here every month with 3 positions.
Yeah, I do
4
appreciate
positions.
that, not
I wanna
having to
bring
come
it
here all
back.
the time. I
Or
like
knock
you
on
guys,
wood.
but I like not seeing you too.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes,
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Just to clarify, you just want that for the sheriff's office
well
itself,
do
or you want for
both.
the jail?
Jail,
Let's do
Okay.
both, please.
primarily.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Next is Assessor 134. Under salaries and wages, 104, 101, personal mobile home, -3,000. To office supplies, 221, +3,000 for a total of 0.
make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is for a more accommodating desk for your employee who has to read large plats.
Yep.
Do we have any additional questions?
I do.
Okay.
Mr. Carmichael, could you elaborate on the, just kind of refresh my memory on the personal mobile home, the money where you're pulling it from?
Personal mobile home, we have a, James Carmichael County Assessor, had a gap in employment in there. Approximately a month or a little over a month, so we're taking that money. And, personal property is business personal property that businesses turn in every year. And, mobile homes are assessed January 1st of every given year. That was just that person's job description.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Treasurer 127. Printing 331, -2,500. 536 equipment, +2,500 for a total of 0.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is part of your computer replacement program that you'd like to have done before the November tax collection.
Yes, yeah. I have right now currently enough to replace one computer for the cashiers, but I need to replace 3. So we found a little bit of money in the printing and advertising, and I'd like to switch that to equipment so we can purchase 2 additional computers for the cashiers. Right now they're running on Windows 10, so obviously those are really old ones. My plan is to try to replace 3 to 4 depending on the year, every year, and then the 5th year replacing laptops. That would take care of my entire office, so every computer would be replaced every 5 years. That way we don't have any malfunctions and things like that.
Just to be clear, when you're buying those computers, do you guys purchase them directly?
We go through our IT, and they purchase them for us and install them and everything. They do if it needs software, they load all the software on there.
Okay, thanks.
That was actually gonna be my question. Do you guys coordinate this with Jim?
Yes,
IT?
yes.
I know he's kind of partial to desktops, for some reason, but,
They have a longer life than a laptop.
They
That's-
do, yeah.
That's
yeah.
why.
So, Would this square you up, Brad? You don't have any computers, or you do still have some?
No,
in
we
your
should be
budget
done
request?
for the year. Yeah, this would be our, we had one earlier this year that we replaced. And then we had 2 printers that were up front with the cashiers. They went out, so we had to replace that. That left me 1 short. And then from the last year's budget, it was cut. The other one was cut. So this would allow me to keep on that pace. And I'd like to do, this year it would be 4 computers. Next year it's only 3, and then 4, and then 3, and then the laptops.
This won't affect your printing budget for the rest of the year?
No, it will not. No.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative Grant 9107. Under other supplies, 240. Positive 4,500. Professional services, contractual services 311, negative 4,500 for a total of 0.
Make the motion to approve?
Second?
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Emily, I'll let you explain this one.
Sure. Emily Anderson, Court Administrator. Last month I came and asked for appropriations for the JDAI grant. And when we got back her grant approval, all of her grant is just different programs. And when we went through it, there's actually money that needed to go in the 200 series that we didn't appropriate. So that's what we're doing. We're moving it back in from 300 to 200.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
And Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the addendum.
County General Communications 124. Under salaries and wages, 111,101 CompTech, negative 8,000. 120,101 CommTech, negative 4,000. 124,101 CommTech, negative 6,000. 126,101 CommTech, negative 1,000. 134,101 CommTech, negative 10,000. 198,101 part-time, negative 10,000. 195 holiday pay, positive 14,000. 196 overtime, positive 35,000. And then under communication and transportation, 358 utility services phone, negative 10,000 for a total of 0.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is kind of similar to the sheriff and jail moving money around to fund holiday pay and overtime. Do we have any additional questions for Fred?
Go ahead, Matt.
You're at about 78% as of July 31st, right?
Yeah, it's actually more than that now.
Yeah.
And there's also a second addendum as well that we talked about at finance, so that I told you in March I'd probably have to come back for an additional appropriation. I was able to find money, some positions that weren't filled for part of the year, so that's the second addendum. So I hopefully will not need an additional appropriation this year for overtime or holiday pay.
Do you have any additional questions?
One more.
Yep.
What's your openings?
I have one opening right now.
Okay, thank you.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. Thank you.
Clerk 125. Office supplies 211, negative 1,500. 536 equipment, positive 1,500 for a total of 0.
Make the motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is for, to replace a couple scanners, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any additional questions for the clerk?
I have a quick question.
Yep.
Is this like replacing them because they're just
But they're
outdated, they're broken,
No, they're broken.
so you gotta have them?
Yeah, everybody in my office scans. Of course, you know, we got files for days.
And so anytime they're not busy with the customer or on the phone, they're scanning files, and so these things just wear out over a period of time. We had,
Get used up pretty quick, I imagine, in the clerk's
well,
office.
actually they last pretty long. It's kind of a surprise that these two went bad, but they did, so.
Thank you.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
And Ms. Piper.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, on to the second addendum.
EMS 155, under salaries and wages, 177,101, advance EMT, negative 15,000. 118,101, advance EMT, negative 16,000. 126 overtime, positive 31,000, for a total of 0.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is more of the same, moving money around from excess salaries for holiday pay and overtime. Do we have any additional questions for you, miss?
Quick question. How many openings do you have?
Technically, right now, none. We just hired 3 people, but we're still in the process. So technically none, but 3. They haven't been officially, they're not started yet.
Started the process.
Yes, we have started.
Thank you.
So 235,000 budgeted, 206, 3091 used, so almost 90%, or
Yeah.
90%.
Yeah, we've used, so I will be back definitely again next month just to clean up. I wanted to wait until we got these 3 people hired so then I could fully evaluate where we're going to be at based on when they start versus how much is going to be left over. So I will be back next month to put more in to get us through.
255,000 a year for overtime. Same with the jail. Reallocating that to another body, would that make sense to you guys?
Adding head count.
I mean, hell, they're struggling to fill the ones they have.
I'm trying to
Come on
I'm trying
over,
to
Mike.
decipher exactly what you're saying. Like,
Do we avoid the as much overtime if we had additional staff?
oh no, because we pay overtime every single pay. So they get paid like time and a half overtime and they get paid halftime overtime because we do 24-hour shifts. So when they're scheduled on their tours to work, any hour that they go over 40, they automatically make an overtime rate of halftime. So we are constantly, every single paying out some sort of overtime.
Plus this year we had the eclipse.
Yeah.
The matter of your
Killed us. We
pay
had the
structure.
tornado.
Mm-hmm.
Schedule it.
Yeah, we did have the tornado, the eclipse, and then we helped cover for the fallen Muncie firefighter. We helped cover the day for them so they could do that. But we've also had 3 openings pretty much, so we've had a lot of overtime this year too.
All right, thanks.
Just a point of order. Introduce yourselves.
Megan Catino, office manager, EMS.
Mike Ashley, director, and I'll be back.
All right.
So another, Mike, don't go away. Matt's question was if you had another position, would that help with the overtime? Which would help more, another position or increasing the salaries for your current position?
More people.
More people?
Yeah, I sent some information to Matt about a desire to get 6 more people. I'd like to have 9, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I'd like to run the truck full-time at a Hamilton Township station on North Wheeling to cover that area better. Right now, it's only if we've got the staffing to do it on a day-to-day basis. So that's something we could discuss probably outside of here.
Is that reflected in your budget request?
Not for this year.
Not for this year?
No.
Thank you.
I guess my question would be is, if we've got openings, how would hiring additional staff make any difference if we haven't filled the staff that we have? I know we just filled the 3.
It's
just more openings to transfer money from.
Well, we would have more people to not get down below our minimums.
So I get it in theory if we can hire them.
Yeah,
We have
yeah.
openings now.
Yeah,
but
if
we've
we
not
could
been able to
find
hire
them, is what I would like to do.
On
I
paper,
mean,
it sounds great, but in
yeah.
reality, we've not been able to fill the ones
we've
we have.
interviewed probably 30-some people this year. We just went through interviews again. We get 6 or 7 each time. It's a no call, no show. They went to all the trouble to fill out the application and select the time to show up, and they don't show up. We had a top 4 out of this last group. Number 2, everybody call her back to accept the job. So we're dealing with, and we're not the only ones. I mean, everybody's dealing with the fire department, police department, everybody's dealing with it. But we used to have 50 people apply for one position.
Fighting over that
Yeah.
one spot. And
And
now
now
we
we
can't get people to show
can't,
up.
we can't get people to show up to work. But it's not just us. I mean, it's that way everywhere.
You're right. It's
My
across the
son's a
board.
flight medic or a flight nurse on a helicopter. They can't hire paramedics to go fly on a helicopter, and everybody wants to fly on a helicopter, and they can't get people to come do that. So it's crazy.
So just to be clear, it wasn't a loaded question. I mean, I wasn't trying to put you on the spot, but you know, it is a staffing analysis review that probably, you know, we just, as we're looking at budget next week, that we're just trying to,
Yeah.
and
I'm
to
all
Mike's
for
point,
it.
he has been, all of public safety has been delivering to me a 3 to 5 year, I'll call it a wish list. It's a, you know, if you had the money, where would it get spent and what would it be for? That laundry list will get sent to the auditor's office as part of hopefully a 5-year, potential projected budget plan, revenue shortfall kind of conversation that we're in the midst of trying to gather.
Yeah, and that's something I'd like to sit down and talk about.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't for this budget. I did too
understood.
many unknowns this year.
It does sound to me like additional people leads to additional overtime.
Well, if you have additional people, you're not constantly sitting on your minimum manning overtime. So you have someone call in, you still have enough people on the shift to cover those trucks and make sure they operate. But if you're down to the minimum people already, because we're short,
We have to force people to work.
yeah,
we
and
have
that's
forced
where
those.
your major overtime comes in. Is when you have to force somebody, because then you're paying
You're
them at
paying
a
them
time and a
straight
half
time
rate.
and a half, yeah.
And more
And that's where
employees.
it eats us. I mean, we could survive on the 235 with halftime all the time, but when you're forcing a medic to work a 24, 12 hours and then another one to work 12 hours unless they volunteer for the whole 24, you're looking at a lot of money an hour to cover that shift.
More employees, new additional employees means more additional expenses and benefits, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah, but less overtime.
right.
So,
So where's the
it's
balance? Which,
exactly.
which like with Matt doing like an actual analysis will help kind of weigh
Yeah.
pros and cons.
And it's
So
more than just money too. You're talking about coverage.
no, I totally get that. No, absolutely. And that's super critical. So because we lost when the city took over EMS, I feel like we lost like 15, a lot, 10,
12. Yes, 12.
12 employees in EMS when the city took over their own EMS. So we had to cut back significantly just to work within the constraints of our new budget that we would have available. So that's kind of
And it
where
hit
that
right at
change
COVID,
occurred.
When
Yep.
nobody was
Yeah.
using
Yep.
an ambulance for anything, but now that's rebounding. I mean, our what do you call it? Anticipated revenues come up significantly since COVID. So,
Mm.
and it's still going up.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get that balance back again. I think we're getting closer.
Right.
So
Gavin's hovering back there.
Did we vote on this already?
No.
No, we're still taking
I
questions.
was gonna comment, Gavin Green, Delaware County Coroner. One of the other things that they have with anticipated overtime is we had to transport our autopsies over to Madison County at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, which incurred at least one driver and a truck to transport. And just 2 weeks ago with the homicide victim that was transported and ultimately died in Marion County, once the police department requested that we go and get him and bring him back to be autopsied here, because Marion County would not autopsy it. And so that's just another thing that ultimately incurs, that was, Jake did 3 hours overtime that would have cost us at least $500 plus mileage if we tried to private contract that out for a transport. And I get those numbers from Blackford County. Zach uses a private company to transport from Blackford just to Ball, and it's $500. So it'd be a heck of a lot more. So just from all of their stuff, then intercompany requests as well too. So
and he's offered to pay us, but that seems kind of dumb to me since we're all
Together,
we're all
we're a
family
team,
here,
right?
right?
Lost.
So-
So
Well,
why,
yeah,
why would
yeah.
why would we be autopsying a gunshot victim?
That's a really good question.
Man, it
It's
seems like a waste
because
of money.
it's just that, well, how do I, at the request of the prosecutor's office, we want to make sure that we cover all of our bases. So with toxicology, and well, if there was something else, just so it doesn't leave a hole in the defense that they would say, how do you know that they died from a gunshot? They could have had a massive heart attack and then happened to be struck by a bullet then. I know it sounds silly, but we were doing just toxicologies when we believed it was a drug overdose. But the prosecutor's office requested that we start doing full autopsies again, because we tried to say, like you just said, if it's just a gunshot, and that's what Marion County's doing, they would not have done an autopsy. They would have just said there's a gunshot wound to his head. That's what killed him, and called a day. The Delaware County Prosecutor's Office believes that they would like to have every single basis covered.
Just seems ridiculous because, I mean, a defense attorney's gonna do what a defense attorney does. He's gonna say anything. He could say he fell in the bush and he was allergic to the bush and died from allergies. But a common sense of a juror got a gunshot wound.
Yep.
I mean, do we just honor all the requests of the prosecutor's office?
All they have to do is present a shadow of doubt, though, in a.
We may not have
jury
met with
trial.
the courts yet, but we did hear that from the court system also, basically, that
You're not selling it.
we prosecute crime in Delaware County, no two ways about it.
Yeah,
And,
Delaware- Yeah,
President Piper,
Yeah.
if I may, we've drifted a little bit away from this transfer. I'd like to
Yes.
call for the question.
All right, roll call, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. Thank you.
Communications, 124. Under salaries and wages, 109, 101. Comp tech, negative 20,000. 195 holiday pay, positive 5,000. 196 overtime, positive 15,000 for a total of 0.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This goes back to what Fred was discussing with us earlier. Do we have any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right. Moving on to our appropriations.
May I ask a question before
Yes,
you
you
read
may.
the first one, please? When you said that the finance committee had a favorable recommendation, did that include
Just the transfers.
the transfer?
Just
All right,
the
thank you.
transfers. We're gonna have lots of discussion here, I'm sure.
Okay, under County General, Public Defender, 139. Under salaries and wages, 113. Attorney fees, positive 50,000. 138 transcription fees, positive 20,000 for a total of 70,000.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. I'm going to let you explain this one.
And I do apologize, Eugene, I forgot to send these out to you.
Okay, I hope all of you received my breakdown, Sam Beasley's letter, Shelley Harvey, Office Administrator, Public Defender's Office. If any of you did not receive Mr. Beasley's letter or my breakdown of our expenses for these two items, did everyone receive it so that you have it to look at? Okay. We have a problem with, actually, it's not a problem, it's just a fact. There have been so many trials this year. We have a lot of dealing resulting in death cases. And that's, I'd say, 90% of what we've tried. As you can see, we've already tried more jury trials this year and than we did the entire year of 2023. And then that leads to more appeals because every case that gets tried gets appealed unless there's a not guilty. Of course, we had a couple of those, but we've had 18 appeals so far this year, and we had 18 all of last year. So at this point, total attorney fees spent last year was $115,750. We've already spent $114,000 to 425. So the fact is, we're trying more cases, and they're murders and level 1 cases, and that's the only thing our attorneys get paid extra for, are murder and level 1s. So that, I mean, it's just more. It's more. The transcripts go along with the number of cases. We have had 22 so far this year. Most of those are in preparation for the appeals. They have to type a court transcript of all the proceedings. These trials are long. They're 3, 4, 5 days long, and that's a long transcript costing, it could be $4,000 for us to pay for the transcript. So we're right there. Just, we're going to run out of money, and this is 40% reimbursable by the Indiana Public Defender Commission. And so, I mean, I hate asking for money, but I've talked to Sam over and over. As you know, this is 100 series. Our general fund is 99% salary and reimbursement and insurance per FICA. We did have one employee, an investigator position, that was vacant for 6 months, and I moved pretty much every penny out of that account into these attorney fees accounts that I have been able to. And that's, I mean, any other funds, we're just almost to the penny to make it through the year. So that's where we're at.
So to be clear, as of July 31st, we budgeted 114,000 roughly for the year. You've already overspent that, right?
Correct.
So, just in attorney fees.
Correct.
I also see that, well, I'll just leave it at that for now.
Did you adjust your budget for 25? Did you increase this line?
I did not, because this is an extreme year, obviously, where we've already tried 8 of these cases. We have no idea how many cases are going to be tried to a jury the rest of the year. I mean, it's something we cannot predict. And so I wouldn't have known what to ask for. You know, I could have gone up 30,000 in my budget request, but you just never know. We could be sitting here at this time next year and have tried 5 cases. You just never know.
Tell me again, public defenders get paid for what cases?
Murders and level 1 cases that go over 3 days.
Yeah.
So if it's a 2-day jury trial, they do not get paid anything extra.
And Sam made a mention in here that the legislature added a new criminal offense a few years back called dealing resulting in death. You mentioned that, which is usually charged now as a level 1 felony. Delaware County has had quite a few of these in the last year or so.
And that's basically what we're trying. We've had a couple of child molest cases, but basically the dealing resulting in death is what we're going to trial on. We've won one, I think, but the plea offers are pleaded as charged or go to trial. So the defendants basically don't have anything to lose, and they go to trial. With each one of these cases also, there is an extensive amount of data that has to be reviewed. For every one of these, you may have 20 police officers that show up and have 2 hours of body cam. Well, you have to review that. You know, the attorney has to review all of that. In our last case, we had 200 and some thousand, I believe, texts, voicemails, social media posts, and the attorney has to review every single one of those texts, voicemails, and social media posts, because you just don't know what the prosecutor's gonna use during the trial.
So, Ms. Shelley, you said that for these particular cases, the attorneys get fees outside of their regular $50,000 salary,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
What are the, like, if I was an attorney doing a case, what kind of fee would I expect to receive?
As a public defender,
Mhm.
it's $5,000.
So this
If a
is,
trial goes over 3 days. 3 days or over, I should say.
so you're expecting 10?
Five
No,
flat.
five flat.
$50,000. Am I doing math wrong? You said $5,000 is what they receive. You're asking for $50,000. Wouldn't that be 10 more cases?
Well, the attorneys on these cases oftentimes have co-counsel. And not only do they need co-counsel to help go through all this data, help them go through, we are also trying to get everybody in our office qualified to do murders and level 1 felonies. And so often they have co-counsel. In fact, it is encouraged by the commission and encouraged by by our chief public defender, that if you have one of these, a murder or level 1, that you have co-counsel, and the co-counsel also gets paid for being out of their office sitting in trial for 3 days, and that fee is $3,100.
For the $50,000, has that money been spent, or is that money that you're asking for in advance?
Some of it has been spent. I'm 10,000 in the hole right now. 10,000. Well, no, I'm 9,100 in the hole right now, and then I have 10,100 waiting to be paid.
Okay, and so you indicated earlier, that you had a $40,000 access, if you would, because you didn't have an investigator for 6 months,
Correct.
okay? And now you're adding another 50, so we're close to $100,000 additional. And I guess my next question would be a question that we have brought up to other people, which is how much additional money are you anticipating to get you through the rest of the year?
I'm anticipating, well, no, I'll say I'm hoping that this can get us through the rest of the year, because like I said, we have no idea how many trials we're going to have. I can't promise it'll get us through the rest of the year, but it very well may.
How do we not have any idea? Aren't trials scheduled out months in advance?
Oh, they are scheduled out months in advance. Not just murders and dealing resulting in deaths, but I mean, we had a case that was set for today that got continued yesterday. You know, you just don't know what's going on. We have trials that you think are going to go, and that attorney starts to prep for that trial weeks in advance, and then you say, okay, there's no way this can't go to trial. This has to go to trial because of this. And so it goes to trial. Each court has, say, 5 jury trials set every week. And so that's, if they have 25 jury trials set every week, sometimes, Emily, none of them go, and none of them may go for 3 or 4 weeks. And it's just, you can't predict it, Ryan. I wish I could.
This has been true forever. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the way the courts
So,
operate.
Emily Anderson, Court Administrator, I just want to say, we just had one today that was supposed to go, and it was outside of defense or prosecutor's hands. I don't want to say what happened, but it was out of our hands that it got continued literally last minute. Things like this happen all the time. We send Venaris out, we put all the time into it, and it gets continued. 60% of our trials that actually get issued out end up either continuing or getting canceled, or they plea. So it's a lot of work for the courts, it's a lot of work for attorneys, and it's frustrating, but it's just how it is. and the one that was supposed to go today was out of everybody's control. You can't predict, because she's right. We have trials stacked in every courtroom every week, and they ask counsel, "Are you ready to go for this one? Are you ready to go?" And they go down the line, and eventually one of them's ready to go. But we have no way to predict what's going when. So it's literally just trying to predict how has it been over the last year. As we have seen in the last couple years, they've climbed. She's climbing because we're climbing. And is it part coming back from COVID? Yes. Is it part crimes? The filings have increased? Yes. So it's just a combination of both things that is affecting both the courts and the public defenders and obviously prosecutors' filings.
Do you have any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Says I don't want to. We'll vote yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you.
You.
Get a compelling argument, Shelley.
Auditor, 126, 311 contractual services, 50,000 for a total of 50,000.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Tanya, would you like to explain this one?
Tanya Dunsmore, Chief Deputy Auditor. We would like to reduce that down.
Okay.
To 30,000. And this request just comes near the end of the year. We are out of our $140,000 budget in contractual services. We are at about 127 spent, leaving around 13. And Baker Tilly is pretty much where they're at now at the end of August, is right around 107, and that's about where we were for the year last year. However, after the finance meeting, we were in contact with them. We don't foresee a whole lot more coming through from them for the rest of the year. So this is just so we don't run out as bills do come in. There are other things that get paid out of there, such as like we have our software rental contract. We have, there's other things besides Baker Tilly that come out of that. So we are just trying to make sure that we have money there to pay the bills the rest of the year, and hoping that this amount will do it.
I have a question.
Yep.
My question is, if we're kind of at the 2/3 point of the year, contractual services is something that's generally pretty predictable. You might have mentioned it, and maybe I didn't hear it, but why did we not have enough in there budgeted for the year?
Well, I can tell you we did up the budget last year from the year before, and it was 95 the year before. Based on that year, we upped it to 140, and we haven't spent it all yet. I can tell you that. We're at 127, so I'm just looking at numbers here.
Is this for Baker Tilly exclusively?
No.
No.
No. There's the highways payroll, clock in, clock out.
Time system.
Time system, thank you. There's the, like I said, the software rental contract comes out of this. There is Baker Tilly, Zix Corp systems.
What did you mean, the highways time system? They're on a different time system than everybody else?
Correct.
What for?
That was before me. I don't know that answer. I would say it's because they have a different kind of, there's Carrie. She can explain it very well.
Carrie Dye, County Highway. So our employees clock in and out. It's a physical time clock. It goes through the software is where we log it and then submit everything to payroll then for the employees to get paid.
You're the only ones using it?
I'm sorry?
You guys are the only ones using it?
Yes.
Why couldn't we just, if they clock in and out and they have a time card, why couldn't you just forwarded that to Pam at the end of the week, like she does payroll for everything else.
Pam doesn't do our payroll.
Auditor's office
Or
handles
whoever
payroll,
does the
yeah.
payroll, why couldn't we do it that way? Why do we have to sub it out to somebody?
Well, we're not subbing it out to somebody. It's a software that's keeping track of each employee's clock in and clock out. And at the end of the week or the 2 weeks, it's got a total on there, and then that's what we submit to payroll.
I mean, I get that.
So
but
you
hell,
want
that's not
me
that
to,
hard
I'm
do.
just, as an example, you want me to go through when our guys are called in and out all winter long or working over summer to hand calculate everybody's punch in and punch out for 50 employees?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what, I mean, a lot of small businesses do the same thing.
I don't see us being a small business.
Well,
How many employees do you have?
Pardon?
How many employees in the highway department?
On the highway side and the bridge side, there's 50. Engineering has 4. Engineering does not use the time clock system.
How much does this system cost us?
For the highway, I think it's around, it's like I'm not sure how many times it hits a year, but it's around 3,000, I believe.
A month?
I believe it's,
I want to say it's less than $10,000 a year.
yeah. I want to say it's quarterly. Does that sound right, Carrie?
Honestly, I'm really not for sure. I know the last time I talked with Jim, I think it's been when Steve was in office, and I want to say then it was around $7,000-8,000
How often?
a year.
A year?
With all due respect, no offense to you, we sit up here and there's been, whether it be something in addition to the auditor's office or the clerk's office or whatever office it is. And a lot of the stuff that we appropriate for is to make our job as employees easier, right? And I just think it's, sometimes we have to consider, yeah, it can make it easier, but it's spending taxpayer money to do that. And we all do get a paycheck, right? So just because it makes it easier doesn't mean that it should be done. If we could save the money on it, and I'm just talking about your instance
Right.
because that's what we're on right now. I bet we could go through every department where we spend money to make the employees' jobs easier, right? But they're getting a paycheck like everybody else.
We can make it real easy, and we can go on the honor system like the county building does or the Justice Center. I mean, we can do away with the time clock and go on the honor system.
Well, I mean, I used to do a time clock. It's pretty, clock in, clock out. You look at the difference of the time. It's usually off to the side anyway.
Well,
I
sometimes that
imagine-
easier actually equals efficiencies that get to free up time to be spent on other things that are more important, but
I think part of it, this particular contract is at least is a fixed price contract. We know at the beginning of the year how much it's gonna cost for this payroll system. I think the issue that we had some discussion in the finance committee in contractual services here largely focused around Baker Tilly. That is not a fixed price contract. That's on a per service or per hour basis. So we are spending more with them this year we did last year. We didn't know that at budget time. Part of that, as I understand it, is because of additional audit requirements and reporting requirements to the state. And their services are part of that cost. But I think that's a huge number. It's not $10,000. It's, 10, 12, 15 times that amount. That's what we need to look at. Is that the right way to contract for those kinds of services? I mean, and honestly, is that the right company to contract with? There are competitors out there as well.
I will say, Mr. Hughes, that they do offer us a discount, sometimes up to like 41%, just like, example, like a lawyer's rate would be by the hour. But if a lawyer is doing contractual services for a company, a lot, often they might offer a discount on the hour, instead of like $3.50 an hour, maybe $200 an hour, that sort of thing. So Baker Tilly does offer those discounts to us as well. And, like I said, we've talked to them. We don't foresee a whole lot more coming in. The last audit that I just got done with, I have not gotten a final call on that or final email. But things may trickle in from that. And like I said, this is just an amount that we felt like would justify the rest of the year, based on what we're seeing now, based on last year's amounts, and that's really where.
Understanding that you've had, I thought Ed maybe said something about you had an additional 3 or 4 additional,
Audits.
audits this year that the state required.
Yeah, like the company that handles the capital assets for our audit, that's paid out of this. So that's comes out yearly until those capital assets get done in a different way. Then we have that. So yes, a lot of it does pertain to Baker Tilly. As far as contractual services, Baker Tilly does more than just like a contractual service cost. They have they have different departments within their company that are utilized, in different ways. But as far as contractual services, it would relate to the audits. Yes, that's correct.
I would say I could give 2 examples. Since the state now requires gap reporting, Baker Tilly has helped us with that. Also with the ARP reporting, American Rescue Plan.
That's not paid out of contractual services, Katie.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it is.
Sarah, for next week, can you bring us the Baker Tilly agreement letter, the current one?
And that was something that came up during finance committee was, what does that contract look like? Council is in control of contracts. That's commissioners get to make those decisions. So we were curious what that number looked like, what's our hourly rate or how we're paying them, because we're not the commissioners use them for different things. Other departments use Baker Tilly, so there's just that one contract.
I'd like to move to amend the request to $30,000.
Second.
All right, so Bill motioned to amend to $30,000 and Matt seconded. Bill. All right, so now we're voting on the amended amount of $30,000. Roll call, please.
Clarification, this vote is to amend and
To
then
amend.
you'll vote to approve, which has already been motioned.
I'm sorry, one other question.
Yep.
What did you say about the already expended?
Sorry, already what?
These money's been, in essence, 9,000.
She'd spent 127,000 so far this
Yeah,
year.
there's still 13 at this point in time.
Okay.
I'm just trying to plan ahead.
All right, so roll call on the motion to reduce to 30,000.
Okay, Mr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Cantz,
Yes.
Mr. Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right, now on the vote for the $30,000 appropriation. Roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Cantz,
Yes.
Mr. Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
No.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right, thank you.
County General Data IT 120, 362 Repair and Maintenance Software, 39,431 for a total of 39,431.
Make the motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Jim, I'll let you explain this one for us.
The request is for the HR software that's being put in, the employee portal, and the web access to store the data. And I can ask Tanya if she has any more to add on to it, but that's basically what I know. The money's going into my budget because that product is supported by the vendor that we have our our accounts payable and payroll now. So that's the reason it went into there. And
Tanya Dunsmore, Chief Deputy Auditor. So Jim gave you the what it is, and the details on that is that it's employee portal and an HR module. It's two separate things. It's a contract that was signed after budget was approved in 2023 for the 2024 budget. So the contract was signed after the fact, therefore that's why it's not in the budget this year. I will let you all know that Jim has put it in for the budget for 2025, so it is in there as far as the annual costs. And what it is employee portal. It's going to eliminate a lot of spreadsheets and emails for the HR to the employees. The employees will have their own access to a portal where they can access their payroll stubs, their W-2s, etc. HR will be able to go in instead of sending an email for all the phone number changes that they do, or that's just one example, but anything that HR would want to put into the portal for employee access, for information, communication. They can put it into the portal. The employees can go into the portal themselves and get any and all that information. It reduces the workload on the exchange servers, etc., which is where IT comes in. Like he said, the budget is in his budget. That's why we're asking for it to go into this, be appropriated into the IT budget for the bills that came in after the contract was approved for 2024. So the HR module, what that is we currently have one. It's called Sage, and it's a not a very user-friendly product. It's a standalone product, and it's $5,000 a month. The new one, since it's under the same financial system that we already currently have and use, it's $4,500 a month, so we are saving $500 a month in that aspect with the HR module. And what it does is also it eliminates the maintenance on the standalone product as far as maintenance and server, etc. And then with that, the employee portal also, normally it would be a cost of $26,000, over $26,000 for the employee portal in order to have the employee inquiry and the time entry included on that. And we negotiated, or Ed negotiated for 21. And so that will also bring about time entry is for eventually eliminate the timesheet entries for all the employees. So with that, we have over 500 employees. When you take the cost of the employee portal and you break it down per employee, you're looking at about $50 an employee at this rate that he negotiated. Also, there was some security questions that he had and that sort of thing in order to to want to use this type of service, and therefore this company is customizing it around our county as far as what we have, what we use, how we calculate, how we submit, I guess you would say, that sort of thing. And of course with HR to all the departments, not just like payroll department. And so anyways, there's some customizing going on in order to accommodate us in that way and make it more to our satisfaction, you could say.
One of the things we talked about in finance too was the challenge of how we account for vacation time and such, and that was some of the customization that has to go in, since they aren't working, they're a 32.5-hour work week, and you do like 2-hour increments for.
We also have a big thing here is we have multiple lines.
Mm-hmm.
So we have employees that maybe get paid half out of this fund and half out of that fund, or stuff like that. So we have multiple lines versus maybe like a big corporation where everybody just has their one line. So that's another customized portion that they will be
But
make-
is this 39,431 implementation cost or maintenance fees?
No, this is a little bit of everything for both. There is a implementation fee, there is a license fee as far as for the HR module.
So
Of
this
course,
is to
those
get
are
it-
gonna be like one-time things, you know
Startup.
what I'm saying?
And it's overlapping Sage, so we're paying twice basically while it's being implemented in essence. Is that out of warranty or maintenance or whatever? Okay. That's fine. That's fine.
The Sage it's usable, but it's we're not paying the maintenance on it for support.
Okay, yeah, I gotcha.
Who's this system?
This is through the current financial system that we already have and use, which is SSI.
So just to reiterate what you said, Tanya.
Mhm.
So we're establishing a HR software that will give employees themselves the ability to see their things, which most businesses have
Yeah,
some
and
semblance
update
of that.
documents too,
Yeah,
right?
update documents, W-9s, W-2s, things of that nature, right?
We're trying to push forward into the future a little bit.
Future, how
Get
about we
out
just
of-
get into the 21st century, you mean, is actually what we're trying to do?
And get away from the spreadsheets eventually, get away from the emails, you know, where people can just access their information themselves whenever they want to access it, sort of thing.
Right.
And
We're taking some of the burden away from HR, in essence, which is another story. But I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, the timesheets component. All county employees submit a timesheet currently,
Mhm.
even if they're not clocking in and out like they do in the highway department.
Correct.
Does this offer the ability to clock in and clock out sort of scenario, or
No, it's
they don't?
still an entry. It's
Okay.
still a time entry.
Okay.
So you
I
couldn't
can
use
tell
the
you
highway
that
on
we have been the pilot for it. Our office has been the pilot. We've used it for 3 pays, maybe 4, 3 or 4.
Pilot in all of SSI?
The pilot for our county with
Oh, I see.
submitting
I got you. I'm
our
sorry. You, the
payroll.
auditor's office, not the
Yeah.
county. Okay.
Just to
Does
to
the
use
timesheet-
it and see, you know, see if everything's going through properly, that sort of thing, to the payroll area. And so like I submit it. So right now, the employees are currently sending me a timesheet, like a spreadsheet, and they log in under their own login, username, password, and then they do their entry on there, which it holds. For a lot of people, that's going to be more of a convenience, you could say, because instead of having to fill it all in, it's already filled in. If you work the same hours, you know what I'm saying, you can pretty much just hit submit. Am I right, as far as like what you guys see on your end? And then when I get an email that just says ready for approval. So I just can go in and I can check it, approve.
Okay.
And then the payroll area is able to bring that up, view it, you know, submit whatever they need to do with it. So we're doing both right now, but because we're the pilot and we're testing it, and we haven't ventured out to another office yet to,
Yeah.
you know.
So even though it wasn't budgeted, we didn't know what the number was. I know we had this conversation in 23, right? So I wish that we should have put something in for this last
I don't know
year.
that we did.
I did. We had the conversation that you guys are going to be implementing HR employee portal at some point.
Maybe.
At some point, yeah, maybe.
All I know is the contract was signed, I don't even know what month, but it was signed after
October.
adoption.
October.
I know, October.
It was signed in October?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's only a month. So,
We sealed our budget at the beginning of October, right? I
Mhm.
think we approved it,
Correct.
so it's probably before we even,
I know.
I mean,
but that's
after
what I'm
we
saying.
approve- yeah.
We should have dealt with this then.
This is the one-time charge. Annual.
I think that's what they're just short in that
Um,
line.
I can tell you the support, or not the support, I guess I don't want to say that.
Jim said he built it
Support,
into his budget for next
Yeah,
year.
support contract, that runs, 4,500 on the HR portal, or visual intelligence, which is, part of their naming. But anyways, that is from like August of this year until July of 2025 next year.
4,500.
Yeah, like some of it's implementation fee, some of it's license fee. I will say the license fee is probably the largest.
The 39.4 is just a one-time charge, correct?
Yes, yes.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Mark.
I mean, because this is a little bit of, it's different things added together.
What type of virus control do we have on something like this?
That's
What are you
gonna,
referring to,
I'm gonna
what's on
refer
the
to Jim.
servers?
On the program itself?
There wouldn't be on the.
It's on our local servers, which we have antivirus on throughout all of our servers. There's no specific software or antivirus on the SSI server, other than our county Sophos software.
Is SSI locally hosted here?
Yes.
Quick question. 2 questions. Number 1, will this eliminate issues with employees' pay being missed, being submitted, not getting paychecks, or getting them late? Will that issue go away? And then the second question is, would this system incorporate the current way the highway, or eliminate the way the highway department is currently doing theirs? Or will we still have 2 different time systems?
I would think if they were going to customize it for us, might be a possibility. However, they are doing a clock in, clock out procedure where this is still a time entry versus clock in, clock out, and that registering all the doing the communicating for the time card. You know what I'm saying?
Will
Where
their
this is
time
more,
cards electronically submit to this system?
I'm sorry.
Will their time cards submit electronically to this system?
I don't believe so. It'll be that the department head or office manager they could submit differently to us, I believe, as far as how that department head submits it to our payroll department. There's
Yeah.
2 different things going on there, because you got your employees doing their time. Then you've got all the department heads across the county that have to submit it to payroll. To answer your late payment, I apologize. That was my fault. I do your guys' payroll, and I didn't do it. Plain and simple. Until it dawned on me, and I called everyone. Well, when you called, then I was like, oh my gosh, you know what I'm saying? My error, because I have to put that in.
Well, that's why
I
I
would
asked.
still have to put that in.
So it doesn't, but an employee still needs to submit.
Yes,
That was what I was getting at.
The employee still has to do theirs. They'll log in, they'll do their username, they'll do their password, they'll do their time. Then the department head will receive an email, and they know that employee has submitted their time, and they can go into, they have access to see everyone's rather than just their own. And so that department head can go in, they can check the time entry based on, what they've been keeping track of, if this person called in or what, their own personal job. And they just submit. So then the payroll deputy gets notification as far as this department's ready, basically.
And then I have one more question, and by the way, that was no big deal. That was settled within an hour. Just so you know, once it was hit in an hour. But last question: did you say this contract was already signed?
That was signed last year at the end of the year, sometime after adoption date. The contract was signed for it. So therefore, this bill this year is not in the budget. That's what I'm trying to explain. It was something that's not in the budget because it wasn't brought about prior to budget. You know what I'm saying? So now it's in the budget for 2025 in ITs.
Do we normally sign contracts before we've got approval of funding?
The commissioners are in charge of contracts.
I mean, still the same question. They should still run that by us if we're gonna approve the funding.
I would say that's a question for the commissioners, not for me.
Wouldn't be the first time that they kind of done what
Well,
they
that's
do,
why I
but
brought up the fact that I do think that it was
just
brought
irritating.
up to us. from the auditor's office but I mean, obviously not from the commissioners, nor I don't think we knew there was a contract or when it was gonna be signed, so. That is a fair
system
question.
works like that. You sign a contract before the funding's in place. That doesn't work anywhere else. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Nothing towards you, Todd. I know you had nothing.
Thank you. All right, do we have any additional questions about this? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Okay, gotta get back on the other, put my other hat on. Mr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Cantz,
Yes.
Mr. Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
I'm gonna say no again.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Now we're outside of county general. These are all their own funds.
Public Defender Supplemental Fund, 247, 536 equipment, 1,050, for a total of 1,050.
Make the motion to approve.
Second?
Take over, Matt.
Any questions?
Just tell me what the machinery and equipment is for the record, please.
Shelley Harvey, Office Manager, Public Defender's Office. Our old, or I shouldn't say old, our former investigator did not want a desktop computer. Our new investigator that we hired, who started in July, well, late July, did want a computer. So I pulled money out of supplemental funds, or am asking to pull money out of supplemental funds to pay for that computer that we got set up for him.
So it's not that somebody's just being needy and I don't like this computer, I want a different one. They
Right,
don't have
right.
one at all.
There was not one at all, and that's why I could get that out of supplemental funds, because it's not a recurring fund or recurring expense out of that fund, which we're not allowed to do, and I will still get 40% reimbursement on this.
You guys have $150,000 in there, in that fund. This is 40% reimbursable too.
Yes.
Thank you. All I had.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Cantz,
Yes.
Mr. Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
MVH restricted, 1173, 311 contractual services, $975,785.88, for a total of $975,785.88.
Make the motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is for the community crossings matching monies. Do we have any additional questions for Carrie?
Just one quick one. Was this for like a specific bridge you guys are doing, or is this just getting it out of the way?
Nope, and I'm gonna give you the list of roads that it's gonna be for.
Awesome.
So, the
Maybe.
MVH restricted, and then the next one that's after that, that is the community crossing money. So both of those monies will pay for the following roads. So it's gonna be Wheeling between Airway and south of State Road 28. Cowan Road from 400 south to 600 south. Cowan Road from State Road 67 or the bypass to, and County Road 400 south. Hoyt from Fusion or Old State Road 67 to the city of Muncie. It's going to be the boundary line for the city. 850 north between Gaston town limits and Wheeling. 700 south between 1000 west, which is also the Madison, Delaware County line, and 950 west. And 875 west between Corner Road and the Henry County line.
It's a lot.
It is a lot for,
So Carrie, these are mostly in motion already?
yes.
And I have had concern about the wheeling component. I'm gonna air it because I've heard multiple comments about
Okay.
that road was not one in disrepair from south of 28 to the airway strip, or was not in bad shape. And I'm just saying that because I've had constituents ping me about why we're doing that and complaining about it and whatever. So, was there a reason, or what was the justification for doing that stretch?
Yeah,
road?
Tommy Humbert, Highway Department. So is this professional people or just homeowners? That's
Folks in the area, yeah.
Yeah, all these roads are on like a phaser system. We go off a rating system on these roads. That's why we maintenance roads before we repave them again. If we don't maintenance, which is chip and seal, those roads will get in bad shape where they have to be a new base put in, stuff like that. So I understand the public does not understand, the homeowners do not understand, but there is a rating system. I wish Troy was here. He could give you more on the rating system. But these are all planned roads, you know. These are all planned. This is not something we just pulled out of the air and said, we're going to do this today because Matt lives over here. No, we're going to go off this system. And we're going to attack the roads that are the highly traveled roads. We don't want to let them get into bad shape. We want to keep them either maintenance. We got a bunch of bad feedback when we maintenance major roads, okay? We have to do that. If we don't, we'll lose them by the time we come back to repave them. So
that's part of a plan.
It's a plan, yeah.
And I will tell you that the phaser program also comes through the planning commission. So they have access to the roads and they're on a scale, I'm going to say a 1 through 5. And also the state, to get this money through the community crossing, they look at the phaser and the road and what kind of condition it is. And
Is
so
that plan publicly available for people to see?
the phaser program,
The overall road plan, the just relative to, in the next 5 years, here's the roads that are on that list, or whatever the number is.
I mean, we have a list, but we don't have anything out there publicly. I don't think that planning commission, they don't have a list. I'm just saying that planning they're part of the phaser program.
And on that 5-year plan that we have, roads are going to change depending on, that's why we hate to throw it out there because this person is guaranteed their road's going to be done. Well, what happens when this falls apart on us? Something we weren't, you know, sometimes they get moved ahead or set back, you know.
I think if you did go down that route, you would have to put it up as like a preliminary plan.
Right.
When I advertise at these council meetings and I put our agenda out, I always make a point to say this is a preliminary agenda.
Yeah.
And it could change up to the start of the meeting. If you did go down that route, you could always include something like that these may change based off of need. Like you said, if
And
something comes
I
more
totally
need.
agree with you. I wish it worked that way with the public, though. You know, I mean, I wish they would understand the way you're making it sound like they will understand. But
They're
yeah,
looking
I
for
agree.
potholes.
I agree with what you're saying. But yeah, things are all subject to change. I mean, any of you guys are welcome to stop out by. We have a huge map out there. We can show you what's been paved. It's different colors on all the years. What we're attempting to pave. But like I said, sometimes there's major changes in a roadway. You know, we don't know when this farmer's going to drop his plow and tear the road up. We're going to have to go pave that area.
Sure.
Okay, because he took off. We don't know who he was. Now we can't do this road over here. So now we're going to maintenance it to try to get by a couple more years so we can work it back in.
Given the dynamic with the public, primarily, I do think more is better. So, like to Ryan's point, even if it's marked preliminary, people, again, I mean, it's the number one thing you hear about, right? Roads, always. So more is less. Less is more. Is not more. We need to have that available if we can to at least reference.
Right.
You know what I mean, on a regular basis, whether it's us or whether it's
Yeah.
commissioners or whoever's getting asked the question. This, Marissa, that it was part of the finance packet that had the list of roads. I'd like to see that. Make sure it gets in the minutes too. That, cause this is Carrie what you submitted for the thing. So, and I don't think everybody got this. I don't think. But anyway, it's the list that Ryan just asked about. But again, just in lieu of trying to,
I don't have a problem sharing it with any of you. I don't have a problem telling somebody we're going to try to get to it. But when you put it out there on social media, which I will refuse to do on our social media, you're going to get ate up. You're going to get ate up. you're gonna get trashed. I mean, I get trashed
But
enough
we
the
get
way it
trashed when
is.
you're doing it anyway.
I get,
so what's the
I
difference?
get, I get,
Internet's not a real place, Tommy, who cares?
we get trashed by trying to do positive things, so, I mean, it's,
I know, but that's the way of the world. I don't think that's the reason. That's not a reason, really. It's you're getting, like I
But ba-
said, I've already gotten feedback on what's already happening. So
the crazy thing is, everybody's got feedback, but who is the professional that has the feedback to give you
yeah,
the
no,
right
it's
feedback?
not about their feedback. It's
You
about
know?
just informing them.
Right, right,
Taxpayer.
Yeah.
right.
You can post it on a website and not necessarily like on social media. If someone chooses to share that link on social media, you know,
Yeah.
that's
And that
another way
grant
to
money,
do
the
that.
community crossing
Yeah.
particularly is, I mean, it's
Yeah, I don't
state
have a prob-
funded and, you know,
yeah.
we should be able to.
I think something you said, like that map you have highlighted, that would be something, an awesome thing that you could post on your social media and show the citizens. Because just because they think that maybe their road's not been done, or they haven't seen you working, they think you guys aren't as busy as you are. But like you said, you've got a whole map highlighted of all the progress you guys have
Right.
made.
And I don't have a problem
long
with,
way.
This map is like 6 foot by 6 foot.
I don't have a
Stand far
problem.
back.
I don't have a problem like putting what we're doing like this out there. But like I said, when you get going down the road and things start changing, that's when it's going to be a really conflictive and a lot of.
The more people understand, the less questions you'll get.
Yeah.
That's the
Just
fact.
for record, how many miles road do you have, Tommy?
870.
870,
I'll say
76.
900-ish, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't remember exactly.
Well, this is always a good time to plug that
Yeah.
GIS helped create, and Tommy and I worked on it, a website, so you know whose road
Yeah.
belongs to who, because sometimes there's a misconception too of who owns which roads, and I know there's a lot of complaints about like East McGalliard, right? So you can go click on East McGalliard and see which government entity is responsible for that part of the road. And so,
Yeah, and thank you for that. That really helps out a lot. I wish more people would use that. They still don't use it. You know, it's out there for what we want them to grab, they don't grab. We would like for them to grab that because that's very helpful, and thank you for,
Pin it at the top of your page. You guys got your own page. Pin it at the top.
we've had it on there, we've had it pinned up there. Don't get too many likes.
all right, well,
Thank you.
Do you have any
and the public
additional
service
Yeah, no
question,
kidding.
please.
Thank you.
yes, Eugene has one question here.
Terry, Tommy,
Yes.
with these funds and the funds from the community crossing, how many road miles will you pave with this money?
Oh, Eugene. I don't have that.
Just to note, the county did get the maximum community crossing grant.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
I can get that for you. I
you
don't
would,
have it
please.
with me right now.
We did get that, but this is not all reflected in this request, right? This is not all of it.
Because
I
this
think
came in
she
less
said-
than what the max was, so you're working to.
Correct. Yes.
There's more to come. Okay.
More to come.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Cantz,
Yes.
Mr. Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. We've got the same on that additional community crossing, so I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Eugene, second by Dan. More of the same. Do we have any additional questions after that lengthy talk? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Cantz,
Yes.
Mr. Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right,
Thank
thank
you.
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 All right,
Juvenile DOC grant 8194.
Oh, I'm sorry, before we go any further, I just need to point this out. The community crossings grant that we just approved,
yeah,
it shows we did $975,786. Shows their balance only had $36,000.
this is a grant, so this is pretty typical for grants. Yes,
Right?
yeah,
Okay, thank you. Sorry
Mhm.
to interrupt.
you're fine.
Under wages and salaries, 101 probation officer, 50,610. Under employee benefits, 171 FICA, 3,237. 172 PERF, $4,739. 173 health insurance, $25,126.11. 174 life insurance, 123. 175 disability insurance, $336. Under professional services, 310, $14,428.89 for a total of $98,600.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is a brand new grant, everyone.
Yes.
Emily, would you like to explain?
Sure. Emily Anderson, Court Administrator. Jane from DCCC helped juvenile probation apply for the grant, and they gave us enough money, sort of, to get a probation officer for juvenile probation. As we all know, probation, the juvenile department is struggling with all the cases out there, and what they gave us doesn't necessarily cover it, depending on who we hire, a full probation officer. It just depends on what health insurance they need, and if we hire somebody with any kind of experience. A base salary for no experience, no years of service is $42,000, and then it goes up from there. So moving forward, we don't know how we're going to maintain this unless DOC continues to up our grant, which we don't know since this is a brand new grant. We don't know how they'll do that. So we appropriated the whole entire grant with what we could. I'll probably have to come back and move things around once we hire someone and know what they need, what their years of experience are, and all of that. The 310 professional services is going back to DCCC. That is to help with monitoring juveniles that need to be on GPS. So that goes back to their services. The rest of it I will have to figure out once we hire somebody. But I wanted to get it appropriated so we can get somebody in that position.
Any questions?
I do. It's a 1-year grant.
It's from July to August,
Bring
or
on a
June to
full-time
July, something like
employee.
that.
So we're bringing on a full-time employee for a 1-year grant.
Mhm.
Seems risky.
It is risky. Jane assures that once you have a DOC grant, as long as you use it, they redo it every year.
But what if we don't? Then what?
Then we don't have an employee.
Do we not have an employee, or is somebody coming asking for an
No, we don't
appropriation
have
for us to
we
fund
don't
it?
have an employee. I mean, that's all our grant funded positions. Like my FRC coordinator, she's grant funded, and once that grant doesn't renew, we don't have an FRC coordinator. That's just
There's
how
quite
it
a
is.
few employees in
They
grant
know
lines,
that when
yeah.
they come on as a grant employee.
I just want to make sure that we're not in a position where in a year somebody's asking the council to fund this employee because a grant for whatever reason
Yes.
wasn't granted.
And I mean, it's not saying we wouldn't come back and ask for an employee because we need more employees. It's just that we can't say, hey, we got this grant, now we want you to fund it. It's more of, we need employees. It's not that we would ask you to take over the
Fair.
grant payment.
All right, that's
Yeah.
good feedback. I appreciate the answer.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
County sales disclosure, 1131. 393 conference and training, 2,300 for a total of 2,300.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Any additional questions on this one? It's used for training, hardware, software. This is coming from fees. Money comes from fees.
And this is coming from your fund that you can only spend on this stuff, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'd like to make an adjustment to it, though. The
Okay.
auditor's office has told me we can take some of this out of the county's training fund. So I'd like to reduce that line item to $700.
Do we need to make a motion to reduce?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All right, so motion by Ryan, second by Eugene.
To
All
amend.
right, roll call on adjusting this to, amending to $700.
Hang on just a second. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Making my notes. All right. Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
So, what can this be used for? And who
Hardware,
determines
software,
that?
and training.
I'm sorry?
Hardware, software, and training.
Hardware,
Those
software.
related items, yeah.
Uh-huh. Is that determined by us or
That's
by
by
the
the
state?
legislature.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Is-
okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna ask if there are any additional questions. All right, roll call on the amount of $700.
Motion to approve the amended amount?
We already did that.
Excuse me,
We already had the motion to read it in,
yeah,
so now
We're just gonna vote on both.
we already voted to,
voted, so
at the
motion to
700.
approve.
We already did that. We just are reading a roll call.
Just a roll call.
That's right.
As amended.
As amended.
We ready?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Cantz,
Yes.
Mr. Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
and Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right.
County
Thank you.
Drug-Free
Thank you.
Community, 1148, 25,595 for a total of 25,595.
Make the motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Jennifer, would you like to explain this one for us?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Lavelle Moore. I'm the Executive Director of the Delaware County Prevention Council. We are the local coordinating council for Delaware County. So we receive the funds and fees every year that come in from people that have infractions due to alcohol and other drugs while driving and other things. So these are the fees that have gone in. We then use this money every year to give out grants to other organizations in the community that do prevention, education, justice reform, and things like that associated with substance misuse issues.
So this money's just what's been generated and you want to appropriate it so you
Yes.
could give it out
Hand
to
it
people
out.
who can use it.
Yes.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Any additional questions?
I think we don't approve their budget.
Correct. All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Cantz,
Yes.
Mr. Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
EMS ambulance replacement, 4915. 537 vehicles, 114,886 for a total of 114,886.
Make the motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is to finally finish that ambulance.
Yeah, we started this project back in September of last year. And we're taking this truck in September the 19th. Should have it back December. Don't need to check right away, I just need the approval for it, so.
This is the ambulance re-chassis.
And the guy just came down to look at the next ambulance to get in line, so I'll probably come back next month to see if I can get the chassis for that, if he gets me a quote in time. We get a discount if we buy the chassis early, but it won't go in until next November.
Right. I know you said it was like 8-9 months behind or
Yeah,
whatever.
It's a huge pain in the butt. Used to, we could start in February and be done in December. And ever since COVID, we can't do it anymore, so I don't know. I don't know what happened, but it's a mess. But anyway.
All right, any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Cantz,
Yes.
Mr. Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right.
EMS,
Excuse me. I would like to point out this next one has the wrong amount. It has the right grand total, but the amount was reduced from 174, 284.60 to 115, 666.49.
Right. I was over here curious what that was.
Yeah. Go ahead, Keita.
So it's the total amount.
Go ahead and read it, Keita, but that's your new total is 115, 666.49.
EMS capital improvement, 4910, 550, other capital outlays, 115,666.49 for a total of 115,666.49.
Make the motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Any questions on this? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Cantz,
Yes.
Mr. Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Delco Cumulative Building, 1136, 220 operating supplies, 3,000 for a total of 3,000.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is for some security badges and such, right?
They need a new like printer head for it, and so
It's the printer to create the security badges.
it's like a part on it, and plus they need badges and ribbon for it. So if it's not used, it'll just go back into there. I just don't really know exactly how much I'll have to use,
Okay.
but they have their own machine out there that they use.
Any additional questions?
I think we said that finance, it's the first we've drawn out of this fund for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't know it existed.
I didn't either.
Yeah, it looked like
That was
previously there had been
65,000.
like refunds from like key fobs that had went into there, and I think John had said that there was a tax from long ago that went into there, but it just hasn't been used in a long time.
So Sarah's trying to track down the ordinance that created this fund. Right?
Correct, yeah.
Because right now, it doesn't appear there's any more money going into it, but there's 65 grand sitting in it.
Yes.
Thanks.
So we don't know how the 65,000 was generated.
That's what we're working on,
That's what-
figuring out.
John had told me that there used to be like some type of tax that went into there, and then they had done away with that.
When it says cumulative building, that means there was a tax.
But it's done now.
Yes.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Cantz,
Yes.
Mr. Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
and Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Would someone like to read the motion?
Make motion to approve financial transfers and amend salary ordinance with like reductions.
Second.
Motion by Eugene, second by Dan. Roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
Mr. Cantz,
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. In our packet, we all received our backfilling reports. I'll entertain a motion that we received these.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Eugene. Roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
Mr. Cantz,
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right. Moving on to ordinances and resolutions. We have our job descriptions 2024-15. Second reading is on the agenda for today.
I make a motion to table this because we haven't got quite all the information concreted yet.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to table this at this time. We were still waiting on some information on some of the job descriptions that we thought we'd get on Friday. So we didn't have time to look over anything. I know Matt's received some things, and we have a Dropbox where these documents are being held for our viewing pleasure. Right now we have a motion to table. Roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
No.
Mr. Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
Mr. Cantz,
No.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right, so motion is, the job description, second reading is tabled for now. Moving on to appointments and committee reports. Don't believe I have anything for this. Any of my committee members have any updates? Nope, we have no old business, new business. I was just talking to Tanya before the meeting, and actually the estimated property tax cap impact report and max levy would be read together. So in the past, the council has chosen to make a motion that there be no recommendation for review of these. And I believe we got a copy of the estimated property tax cap impact report and max levy. Let's see, that was sent to us back on the 16th of August. So at this time, I would entertain a motion for no recommendation of review.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bill, second by Eugene.
I guess by way of explanation, the council would have the opportunity to go through every unit and review their max levy and tax cap, but to not any particular purpose that I could ever see.
Yeah, as long as I've been on council, we have not reviewed those. Roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right, so that puts us down to the FLSA discussion. I think this came up a little bit in our last meeting that the federal guidelines had changed back on, was it July 1st? And then they changed again on January 1st. So this is more just time for us all to chat about it. There's no actual document for this. I know, Matt, you want to take it from here and kind of explain your concerns?
So we had, the auditor's office sent out, a spreadsheet of potential gaps in the FLSA requirements as of July 1. I failed to bring it up, but let me find it real quick.
If you got one for me.
One's superintendent, one's supervisor. Okay.
Here it is. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Got public health centers. Okay.
Okay, so back to the FLSA thing. So this list that was provided shows that there's a couple gaps that we have relative to salary requirements as outlined by FLSA. The first one is Director of Environmental in the Health Department. There's an $86 gap as of 7/1/24. That
What
will
was that number again?
$86.
Okay.
That will increase on January 1 to $14,854. In lieu of making an adjustment to salary currently, we can leave it be, knowing that there's a potential for a resource who's not an exempt employee who's not making the minimum salary would be available to have overtime, to garner overtime, to meet that threshold. The big one that I wanted to cover was chief deputies, because on this list, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chief deputies. In the current job descriptions that we're reviewing, they're listed as excluded, which would exclude them from the FLSA requirement. They're not exempt, or not marked exempt. They weren't marked exempt currently. So if we change that as part of the job description review, those two would be, there's 8 of them would be short to the tune of roughly 6, 12, 22, probably about $30-some thousand. Overall on 1/1/25 though, we are most likely going to be seeing a gap of $273,916 or thereabouts for gaps in the FLSA requirement as of 1/1. How much is that amount? 273,916. So it's something to bear in mind as we're reviewing next week on our salary. There will be, most likely need to be, I think, some discussion on how we're addressing that. Not as part of a raise, but just as a requirement based on what the federal government has outlined for exempt employees.
We'll want to make sure we call these out as we go through those budget line items, and we'll have I think by then we'll have all of our job descriptions too, so we can just double check and match up to make sure they're all in compliance.
Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
I guess there was some encouragement to try to do something now as far as salary adjustments to comply with, Fair Labor Standards Act. Problem is, we haven't completed the salary study, which is why I voted not to table the job descriptions today. I would like to get that finalized. And somebody said, when will those job descriptions be final? And the answer is never, because they're always going to be changing. We just have to get something in place, and then we can make changes as necessary down the road. But to Matt's point, I think we have to wait until we go through the budget process and get those job descriptions finalized before we can address this issue, in my view. The other point I would want to make is when the job descriptions say that those chief deputy positions are excluded, it's not that we are excluding them from the operation of law. It's that in the judgment of our consultants, those positions are simply not covered by FSLA. So,
Because they're appointed,
FLSA.
right?
So because of the nature of their, yes, they're appointed, they're basically at will to the office holder, and so there's a specific definition in the law that would exclude them. It's not something we're doing. But all that sort of has to be addressed. We can't do it now, and I think the idea of trying to make adjustments now just doesn't. We're more likely to make a mistake than to correct one, in my view.
Yep, I would agree with that. Part of the reason also I think that the job descriptions need to be addressed now, or should have been addressed now. Knowing that there are gaps in what people have been able to review, I get that, but there's also 500 of these, or several hundreds of these for review. So as Bill stated, I think the process of review and changing will be probably monthly, once we implement these, because once they're done, and they don't take effect until January 1, I would think we were pushing towards that potentially. It would only happen once the new budget season starts. So these were just to try to do that. So anyway,
I would like to touch on that just real quick. I know we had tabled that, but I heard Councilmember Hughes mention wanting to get it in place, and I just heard you mention something about getting it in place. We're gonna make the adjustments to it. Again, I'm curious. We're not implementing until January 1. I'm not understanding the rush to do it. We don't do that in any other thing. We get it right and then we implement it. We don't implement it and then work out the bugs over a period of several months. For every other thing we do, we work on it, get it right, and then we bring it into existence. It just seems like that we're
do you want me to answer that?
deviating on this particular subject, and I'm not sure why we're doing it that way.
We're not deviating on it. This is step one in the process. We're having budget meetings next week. So we have yet to determine in some cases what's an exempt, non-exempt employee, for an example, which will dictate whether or not we make a change to their salary for next year. So if we're adopting our budget by October and we have yet to get these done, then how are we bridging the gap?
I understand what you're talking about as far as with the exemptions, employees, and those things to get worked out. My point is what I said before. I think if we're trying to implement the salary study to this year's budget, we're backing ourselves in a corner.
We're not talking about implementing it this year. I'm saying just from a job description standpoint, dictating what a person's status is just one factor in that conversation. So that's why I think it was important to try to get those updated ones and the work that's been done implemented sooner rather than later.
Could we not do that during the budget process for these particular ones that you're talking about that are having the that's up in the air?
Well, we've got there's a few moving parts here, because we've got the job description portion, which has absolutely nothing to do with salaries.
Well, kind of.
Well, other than the FLSA part, right, whether they are exempt, not exempt, but the actual monies is a totally different issue, which we'll address during budget hearings. But some of those where they kind of marry each other here is we're going to have some positions where we need to address, okay, this person is now non-exempt or they're exempt, or what is it gonna, what's the difference to get them to the point where they maybe don't accrue overtime, and I agree with that. Is that enough? Do we want to make that decision to put them as an exempt because maybe overtime would be more expensive. Like we got to make those analyses then. So there's like two different things going on and one thing that kind of impacts both.
I agree.
But
with
right
that
now we're
aspect of
only
it.
talking about the job description, nothing about the monies.
Can
With
we-
that
And could you
ordinance.
reiterate how many positions are up in the air on that as far as trying to figure out their status, whether they're exempt or not? You say somebody say 8 or 10.
there's 8 chief deputies, but then there were just a couple others, I think, on Matt's list.
Yeah, those are the ones that Pam and Lee just handed out to you, I believe. I think those are it. And some of these aren't, one of these I don't think actually was an exempt issue. It was more of a full-on change to the job in the clerk's office. But the highway superintendent or supervisor, the public health nurse was asked for a change in the FLSA status. Those two particularly, at least right now, are the ones that I think haven't been discussed in our work session.
And I know you weren't there on that last meeting we had, but they're adding on the job grade. You'll see the letters now present, which it wasn't before. So you'll see that on future job description documents.
So are you proposing that we resolve this in this meeting?
No, it's been tabled, so I was just bringing it up
So
as part of the FLSA conversation that those two things are tied together.
could we not discuss the exempt status with that not being tabled?
I mean, we've kind of done that in mass or at length, I should say, at those 2 work sessions we had.
I don't think anybody here from the health department, that's one.
Yeah.
And then, the discussion that was gonna be had was around the highway position. And then, I don't believe this changed, but I'll double check that one. So, there's really only one to discuss right now.
Well, while you look for that, let's take like a 5-minute recess. I know we're running really long and I've had a few people give me the look they need a break. So let's recess for 5 minutes and we'll come back at 11:10. All right, and we're back. Thank you, everyone. We're back. All right. Matt, you found what you were looking for?
I think so.
Okay.
All right, so of the job descriptions that Pam and Lee presented to us, there's 4. Let's deal with the clerk one first. Supervising deputy clerk. This was a former position that was a comment position under the court's first deputy juvenile court. They would like to create or recreate that position into this role, which is supervising deputy clerk. It would go from a non-exempt comment D position to a exempt Pat B position. So that's one for review. The public health nurse, this one was just delivered to HR yesterday. The only questionable change is around the public health nurse status of non-exempt. They want it to be non-exempt. I've asked Jamie to weigh in as to why it would go from a exempt to a non-exempt position. It probably has something to do with call or other factors, but I don't know the answer to that. And then the last one is the supervisor in the highway department. You'll see 2. There's a superintendent job title and a job title supervisor. They are, in essence, the exact same job description. And they were the supervisor job description, in my estimation, was created specifically for Mr. Humbert, who serves as the head of the highway department under this supervisor role, previously a non-exempt position, which to at least a few of us during the work session does not appear to be the correct status legally because he oversees the entire highway department. And the bridge, yeah. So there's a supervisor 1 at the highway level, a supervisor 2, excuse me, at the highway level. There's no supervisor 2 at the bridge level. Tommy serves as both the supervisor 1 and the bridge supervisor together. It was discussed in elevating that job title to superintendent, which is more in line with Tommy's actual job, and creating an exempt position accordingly. And then discussing the amount of overtime pay that Tommy gets throughout the course of the year over the last several years, and eventually aligning his salary during budget to the superintendent role versus the supervisor position. That would take it out of the non-exempt status. He'd no longer be eligible for overtime in the exempt position. Currently his salary wouldn't change, but until January 1, if we so choose. So that is the discussion point, is do we change his title and change his exempt status to that? So those are the ones that were in essence on the table that were actually worth discussing, I guess, and maybe not the right word, but that didn't have just minor tweaks. Typically, we added the job grade to every job description. Job category was confirmed. There were a few other discussions around changes in the categorization, but given that the categorization directly ties to the salary number, to me, that was something we would tackle when we tackle the actual numbers. But in this instance, these ones here are directly related to FLSA and their exempt or non-exempt status. The chief deputy one is the one we were just discussing at the end. Previously, our chief deputies have been listed as an exempt, or currently listed as exempt. And the recommendation from Wagner Shealy was excluded. So that would be something I don't think we can tackle that. I would like a legal opinion or some sort of expert opinion as to why excluded is the way. If that's true, that because it's an appointment or whatever might pertain to that. Bill's, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, but you said in our last work session that you didn't think that the law was clear and it was really at our discretion potentially.
You read the law, and I thought that part was reasonably clear, but guess what? I think we do have some discretion in interpreting the law. I agree with you. It would be beneficial to have council weigh in on it.
I have a question. You said before when we were talking about jobs, descriptions and being implemented at the first of the year, if we took action on these 4 right here, or 3 really, would those take place immediately or at the first of the year?
Well, there was some discussion too about these, if we adopt, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I feel like I remember that very first time we met, that it would be for any new hires coming in from the time we adopt it.
Well,
But I also remember talking about the first of the year, so I don't know if we ever, because we didn't really make any votes, right? We didn't really decide anything, so I don't.
Well, I'm asking because we're not gonna do salaries till the first of the year. If we switch him to where he's exempt and not eligible for overtime, and there's 4 months left in the year, that's gonna significantly impact him financially this year.
Yeah.
That's why I'm curious, if we do this, can we make it where it takes effect on January 1, same time the salaries will be taken
We
effect?
can make it say whatever we want it to say, right?
The ordinance is introduced says it takes force and effect after adoption, and I think what we discussed in the work session is we will change that to January 1, 2025 to coincide with the budget year.
Okay. So
But yeah, that's up, as Jessica's point, that's up to us.
Yeah.
Is it possible, and I'm gonna defer to Matt, cause he's, at this point, I know he's been really invested in this. Is it your opinion, Matt, that the ones that are in front of us to have these particular changes implemented?
Like a recommendation?
Yes, is that what yours is?
We haven't
in
decided,
support
really.
of?
I'm answering from Matt. We really haven't decided on the, highway, whether it's superintendent or supervisor.
Well, I always consider him a superintendent. I know that's never been his official title. That's what I've always considered him.
I mean, we the purpose of the discussion on the line item was to discuss that and potentially approve the job descriptions with these amended changes from this.
But I'm asking you, are you in support of these 3?
I am in support of, yes, I'm in support of, well, I don't know, to be honest, I'm not in support of the public health nurse being a non-exempt at this point, because I don't think we've justified why that would be. But I am in support of the superintendent title being changed and it being an exempt position, because I think we're outside the law currently. And then the supervising deputy clerk, based on the role change, is accurate, yes. So that is my personal recommendation, but that was why we were gonna approve those with these amendments and all of the other amended changes.
Can we make a motion to just approve these right
Well,
here?
we've got a ton of them that don't really, had no changes too, right? That, so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just easier to do it as a big bundle.
Okay.
I think when the group got together, we also discussed, somewhat at length and reminded each other from time to time that what we're really trying to do here is not to address an individual with a name and what they're currently doing. We're trying to address a department and what that responsibility is, so if and when an individual were to leave, we would automatically know who it is that we, or the commissioners should be hiring and what their responsibilities are. So
The commissioner would be able to give an accurate job description, accurate pay for the person they put in that position.
I agree.
Well, maybe we can get Jamie to meet with us or be prepared to discuss it during budget next week about that particular position, and then we'll be ready to go with all of these at our September meeting.
He did message me. He did say that it previously was exempt, non-exempt. They don't have any supervisory duties. He's not sure why it was changed to exempt.
Now that you mention that, I think
he
you shared
did
that with
say
me
that.
once before as
Yeah,
well.
I didn't realize that was this role, but yeah, so I do think that's just a course correction from what the consultants provided to us. So I would be in favor of, keeping that the way it is.
Is your job grade still C?
Mm-hmm.
So is there not a particular urgency with these three then?
There's not any more urgency probably than any other, I don't think,
I mean,
but
yeah.
other than in the chief deputy position, which I think is gonna need to be delayed anyway, in some respects, so.
'Cause I'm with you. I'm in support of these right here. There were some other ones that I had concerns with, but as these are presented, I'm in favor of it. As
Well, we still have to make a decision, is it a superintendent or a supervisor for the highway,
my
so,
vote is it's a superintendent.
alright. Eugene, did you have something you were,
Well, I believe where Matt says feels like we're outside of the law, I think that's his interpretation of the law. I mean, as we've heard in the working session, it is up to our discretion to decide whether or not that superintendent position falls where in that FLSA. And I thought we also heard from comments that we're trying to put an accurate job description of what is currently in place now, not what is going to happen in the future. That's where I got, I guess, dead-ended when I was trying to portray what job descriptions we don't have, such as a building supervisor or a bridge supervisor, superintendent. And so it seems like what I heard at the working session and what we're talking about now are different things. And so that's why I'm in favor of tabling this until we get those things ironed out.
I'm not sure I'm completely following.
All right, at the working session, I asked, why don't we have a job description for a bridge superintendent or supervisor, whatever you want to call it?
Right, right.
The one answer that we received was, well, we're trying to put these job descriptions in front of us now based off of what is happening right now. Not
Right.
what we think will happen in the future, because we can change it in the future when that position needs to have a job description.
Right, and that,
You're saying that for the superintendent of county highway, you want to create the superintendent job description and then force the employee into that spot, which is not currently the way that they're hired right now.
currently the supervisor position mirrors the superintendent job description, literally
Very
to the
true.
T, outside of it calling it a supervisor versus superintendent.
Yeah, I don't really know the argument. It's just a name. They're both exempt.
Well, to Eugene's point, he's saying that we, in the
I understand his
hierarchy,
point.
They're not both exempt, Ryan. Supervisor is non-exempt.
It says on here they're exempt, and that's that's a issue I was gonna bring up.
Yeah, I thought it said that they both were.
No, the way I have it here, supervisor is non-exempt and the superintendent's exempt.
Oh, wait a minute.
and the FLA status at the top.
because we did not change that
That's
because
not
of
what
that
mine says.
discussion,
Nope, it
Eugene,
does.
to your point, right? We didn't change that because of the discussion about it being a superintendent role.
Didn't someone ask Tommy if the commissioners were okay with this? And we were supposed to hear back from them.
Gotcha.
Tommy,
I
do
think
you know?
Tommy's feedback, you wanna, your question to the commissioners about the status, and I think you kinda said that they're just deferring to whatever we decide or
Yeah, I
something like
mean,
that.
did Shannon talk to any of you?
Uh-uh.
Okay,
So we should talk to Shannon.
yeah.
Okay.
I would say I would do that.
So the meeting that I was in.
But you
though,
said you were gonna talk to him.
I did, but he told me he was gonna talk to you guys.
when did this get changed?
He'd be with you.
That first meeting I was in, it was.
Surprisingly, that
The
didn't happen.
supervisor is always non-exempt. The superintendent.
We added the superintendent. We changed it to a superintendent role.
I guess
But
based on the
but
confusion,
study-
we
they-
just,
They requested that it be exempt. That was his whole objection to it. So why is it now
Because
saying?
they were treating him as if he were a superintendent in the way that they were categorizing because of his duties.
I'm personally, I'm okay with being
Right.
exempt as long as I'm not gonna lose a lot of money, which is what I would do. You know, I know this ain't about money, but
It's always about money.
it is, I mean, I know we're not supposed to be combined in them,
Right.
you know?
Right.
But by me losing the overtime, I'm losing because I spent a lot of hours there, which I still will be spending
Well,
if
you're
I'm
the one
exempt.
exception to like everyone on this whole job
well, and
description
to
thing.
Eugene's point, I mean, the consultant's making that basis on the law, their recommendation to make it exempt is based on the law, and I'm not sure I'm trying to interpret it any differently. I'm just taking what they're saying, and I agree that he supervises the largest department outside of the jail and public safety. So that would make him an exempt employee by nature. But that's all I was trying to say with that. I do think that we need to probably reconvene to confirm up a few of these and make sure that HR has been able to provide us every description that exists and put those out there for everybody to see. And then, we can either call a special meeting or I don't know if we can. We really theoretically can't do it during budget, I assume, but that's just.
Well,
before the
I think
budget
there's a
meeting.
plan commission meeting in this room that Thursday night that we're in here, so we could always say that we were doing another work session following the conclusion, or an hour after the conclusion of, or whatever. I mean, we can do that, because we only have to have 48 hours to advertise for the work session, right, Ben?
Okay.
So we can do that.
I'll be honest, when I left the work session, I thought we were pretty much
Done.
on. I mean, I thought we
Yeah.
were pretty much all on the same page. And what you guys were on, Shannon was going to be on with also.
Okay.
If we're still on that, but it seems like I see where it's changed a little bit, so I don't know how
I
to.
don't think
No, I think
so.
we're just trying to clarify.
Okay.
Which way we're going.
So where we were at the work session, that's going to work.
Okay.
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 Yeah, I mean, I can talk to you.
I do think
After
that the
this.
ordinance language probably needs, Bill, I do think the ordinance language should be clear about effective date. So I don't know who needs to.
And the one thing too,
Subject to your amendment.
So we can make that
But you can amend as needed, and then that's what it'll be.
Prior
Okay.
to, prior to.
to
If
voting.
if you'd like me to draft a proposed amendment, I'd be happy to do that, but I'm not just gonna say it's been changed because you guys have
Yeah.
to vote on that.
Sure.
Okay, that works.
and the bridge, like I said, we put the bridge supervisor back in as honestly just a safety shield, because I don't know what's going to happen with me. Okay.
Right.
And like I said, I'm the only superintendent in the state that has a whole completely different department,
Right.
and I do both. So as long as it's combined, I'm saving the county a lot of money.
Right.
Thanks, Tommy.
Yeah, thank you.
Real quick before you move further, did you say the planning commission's gonna be in here the Thursday of our?
I believe I saw that on the
that was
calendar.
our longest
Oh, you not
one.
now? Did you move it? You moved it? Okay, then never mind.
All right, thank you.
Okay. I was looking and I was like, oh, we'll have to move our meeting. Okay. Where did you move yours to?
It's the same night, it's in a different location,
What location?
emergency management.
Okay. The EMA. All right. Do we have any elected officials or department heads?
Gavin Green, Delaware County Coroner. I just wanted to give you the monthly kind of update. Sorry, I missed last month and I don't have my printouts because we had a pretty serious accident fatality this morning. Currently, we have 392 cases that we've entered into our system. So if you project that out, that'll be a total of 588 cases for the year. Thus, we're averaging about 49 cases a month. And so we're on track to be budget or a little bit less than what we were projected. So hopefully in our working session come next week, I'll have some better numbers to be able to see if we're going to be giving any money back or if we can reduce any of our budget, as you guys always ask. So that was that. I wanted to also, that the state of Indiana, I did get this confirmed that Zach from the prosecutor's office is the leading prosecutor with dealing resulting in death in the state of Indiana. We're the leading ones. He and one of the federal prosecutors came and spoke to the coroner's conference that they are leading the whole entire state, and they're like setting the bar. So to go off what we were talking about earlier, we went on a tangent that we're setting the bar and we're setting the investigative standard, you could say, of what we're using in order to prosecute these cases. So when it comes to public defenders, when it comes to the prosecutors, we're involved in both because we give them all that information. So they're going to see how they're going to define their whole entire case around the cause and manner and all the contributing factors on side of that too. So we get all the requests
And so we want to make sure that we don't look like we are trying to save $1,000. And so, but, oh, well, there's a hole in the prosecutor's case and vice versa. So that was that. To go along with what we said about the cases, I went to deposition, and it was my case, and they pled out the day before we were supposed to go to court. So we were prepared. Everything was ready for the hundreds of hours that we went and prepared and got ready for. Then they literally walked in the door that morning and said, hey, we're going to accept a plea deal. And so that's interesting situations where it's all planned out. We were ready, just like you, Ryan. I took work off because I'm normally on call for at night. I took off to be at court, and then I found out, hey, you don't have to go. So that was that. I wanted to ask Tanya about the new system that you guys were trying. How you said that there's still manual data entry when it comes to clocking in and clocking out, correct? You said that how it would be automatically filled if you're working 8:30 to 3, their supervisor would just be confirming that they worked 8:30 to 3.
That's correct.
But then if, let's say, I was the supervisor approving Rhiannon's time, could Rhiannon, with that portal that she had, could she say that she came in at 8? Could she overwrite it and put in that she came in at 8:45 and worked till 3:45?
Not once you approve it.
But if it wasn't approved?
If it wasn't approved, yes, she can change her
Okay.
time entry.
Okay, so technically we wouldn't have a clock in, clock out system, but our employees could technically manually put
Track
it
their
in.
time.
And then they would still be falsifying time cards if they said, oh, I came in at 2:30 in the morning and worked until 5, and you find out they didn't. So
That's correct.
I was hearing what Carrie I was agreeing with the county highway department was saying is we're not tracking that time, but if that system did it, that would help out everyone, and you'd have to be on the honor system, but that's a whole other thing. And by the way, I live right outside of where they're paving on North Wheeling, and I appreciate it. So I don't know, maybe constituents just wonder how the heck that was. Like, they just added a turn lane like 2 years ago, so it was nice and paved, but I kind of pull out and hit that big bump every single time like I hit it this morning. But it's one of those, like, it's first world problems that I have to hit that bump, and it's going to be a nice paved road. So I'm appreciative of that. So I didn't even know it was going to happen, and I'm one of the elected officials, but it was nice to be to see that being done. So with that, that's all I had. Yeah, does anybody have any questions?
I think we're good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other elected officials, department heads? None? All right, we'll move on to public comment. First up, we've got Ron Crouch. Again, I'd like to remind everyone that try to keep this to 3 minutes. We've got a handful of folks who've signed up today.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ron Crouch. I live at 2901 West County Road 700 North in Delaware County. I moved here from Grant County. I lived in Grant County for 25 years, and I just moved here 4 months ago. I'm a businessman here in Muncie as well. I have 22 employees. We're a union company, and I moved to this area very recently. On the 93rd day of living in our new home that we invested everything we had in, everything, I received a letter from National Grid starting the conversation with "Hello, neighbor." They're not my neighbor. They're somebody that is been approved to have drones flying over the top of my house. All the surveying going all over my property of 18 acres. Nobody from the county notified me. Nobody told me nothing about this. There was absolutely zero transparency, letters, notices, absolutely nothing that this was going to happen to me. This past Friday, I had a realtor at my house to appraise my house because I think I should put it up for sale due to the solar project that I feel Delaware County government has given the green light. I don't know why I would move anywhere in Delaware County right now after I sell it. Where's the next zone that's going to have solar brought to it? We have 1,400 acres roughly in the Rorton area they're wanting to put solar in. Where's the next 3 zones, 2 or 3 zones of 1,400 acres? I right now don't know why anybody would want to buy or build a home in Delaware County because we're not being informed of anything. These companies are coming in and they are monsters. They are giants. And the main reason I came here is because I spoke to one of the farmers that signed on last night. I had a long conversation with him and I told him I forgive him because I am a forgiving person. And he said, Ron, I think I've done the wrong thing. Our county has allowed these giants to come in, speak to these farmers and sell them and promise them the moon and do everything with no protection whatsoever. I challenge to find out, does one government official in Delaware County have any idea of what they're saying to these farmers to get them to sign on? What are they promising? Is that being monitored? Does that have anything? We have brought a giant into Delaware County. And David reached into his bag and grabbed a stone, and he slung it, and he struck the Philistine, and he fell to the ground. We need a David right away. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Melinda Crouch. Are you gonna take her time?
Side.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
All right.
Hello,
Hi.
my name's Melinda Crouch and I'm his better half. So I am opposed as well. I live at 2901 West, County Road 700 North in Muncie, and we just bought our home. We just bought our home a few months ago. And we moved from our home of 25 years where we raised our kids in Gregg County. And then we were not notified whatsoever about the plans of the solar farm coming around us. And it will be wrapped all around us. And so it's disheartening, to say the least. I have something that a friend of mine, wanted me to share, because she knows a lot more about this, so I'm not a speaker. Okay, so you are elected by the people as the fiscal governing body and to be a watch and a check balance for the Board of Commissioners. If you are not aware of all the negative financial impacts from solar, you need to get educated soon. First, numerous real estate studies that are peer-reviewed by universities by experts in their field show negative impacts to home values up to 3 miles. Those of us that are engulfed and surrounded will have major devastation. Property taxes is the lifeline to the county to pay for expenses. Given the vast size of these solar plants, over 200 homes or more could be impacted. On top of that, if you are not aware of the lawsuit that is going on in Madison County, you should be. An attorney advised Madison County that if the project gets sold to a governmentally owned public utility, that they become tax exempt. Everyone that is pro-solar in this county thinks we are going to get millions off of the revenue, but this may not be the case. When the developers first apply here, they are nothing more than an LLC, and if approved, they immediately go to the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission to become a public utility. Once that happens, then all control at the local level is lost. Attorneys in Madison County have advised that public utilities are governed by the state and federal levels, and when the project is sold, the assessed values will decrease and be reset. And again, if sold to a governmentally owned public utility, they are tax exempt, and there is nothing this county can do about it. There are many reasons on why Madison County changed their mind about Lone Oak Solar and is now trying to stop it.
Minute mark.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, up next is Autumn Grismore.
Good morning. My name is Autumn Grismore. I have lived in Hamilton Township for 18 years. I currently live in the Country Village Creekwood area, and we also received the notification dated August 5th, mailed to us about our wonderful area being engulfed with a utility-sized solar farm. I guess I want to lead with kind of taking it from our solar ordinance. If you read about what's happening, not only in the state of Indiana with other counties, but you go to our neighboring states of Ohio and Illinois, the ones that have approved it are constantly fluidly looking at their ordinances and keeping them up to date on what's happening with these companies. These companies come in with the information that they're giving us that is only being studied by their side. We have information that is coming from third parties that we are reading and we are educating ourselves on that honestly is very disturbing on what's actually happening on the ground to the residents, the health, the safety, the welfare of the people who are living around these things and what is actually happening, not just the information that's coming from these big corporations. So I guess my plea would be not only we just need to enact some things in our ordinances that makes sure that we are protecting first and foremost the residents of Delaware County. And honestly, that's kind of where I want to leave it. So thank you so much for allowing us to speak. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to voice what my concerns. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
One comment, bear in mind that the solar ordinance is adopted by the commissioners. The council doesn't play any role in that. Thank you.
All right, up next is Mike Johnson.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Piper, will you let me know when I have 30 seconds left? Or somebody who's keeping time? Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Mike Johnson, I live at 11701 North County Road 200 West, Muncie. I'm sad. My wife and I bought this property 8 years ago. This was going to be it here. We put a lot of money in it. We love it. We got a beautiful forest. We got a 2-acre flower meadow. And now we wake up every morning with that pit in our stomach. It's gone. When I look out my front door and I'm going to see solar panels, it's just heartbreaking. Our property value, you know, as much money as we have invested in this, several $100,000, how much are we going to lose? But we don't want to move. The solution is not to move. The solution is to fight this back. And please do not take this path with these solar companies. We look at our place as like our own little national park. The grandkids come out and play. We enjoy the serenity. I enjoy hearing the chickens crow down at the end of the road. Can you imagine what's going to happen when they start this construction process? This is going to be devastating. Devastating to my neighbors, devastating to you, and devastating to this county. And furthermore, it's going to be devastating to this state. I know that my neighbors and the people that are around us, we're well organized. We're well organized, and we're ready to fight. This will be nothing but blight. That's what it'll be, is blight. When you look out and you see all this, it'll be blight. They'll say they're going to take care of it. They say it's going to be good. They say they're going to plant flowers. Are you kidding me? That's not going to happen. And in closing, I mentioned this at the last meeting I was at here. If everybody would please just turn around and look at that Delaware County seal up there. That is Indiana. That is Delaware County. Farm fields, ears of corn, a plow, a beautiful sky. And I just want us to remain that way. This is pristine farm ground in a pristine area. Let's keep it this way. This will create blight like we've never seen before. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, up next is Mallory P.
Hello, my name is Mallory. I live in Yorktown. I am here today to voice my opposition of all the industrial solar that is trying to take over our farmland in Indiana. Delaware County right now is being targeted for this kind of development. None of this will benefit the county or the citizens. You were all lied to originally whenever they tried to come to Gaston. Now you are afraid of setting a bad precedent. Why aren't you afraid of what your constituents will think of you for not standing up for them? Why are corporations held higher than the citizens in this county? We deserve better, and now is your chance to show you stand for us. Mokel and Kantz showed up to a meeting that was in opposition of these new industrial solar farms, and all I heard were excuses. We need a moratorium against any present or future solar farms from coming to Delaware County indefinitely. Make a strong statement by not allowing any solar farms in this county. You are so quickly to give tax abatements to these corporations, yet we are one of the poorest counties in Indiana. Those were Mokel's words. Maybe if you stop doing this and let the corporations come that want to enrich our community on their own dollar and not ours, then we wouldn't be in this situation financially. It doesn't take a genius to figure this out, just common sense. I'm putting this county council on notice that we, the people, will not sit idly by. The people will fight you will fight you on this, even if you won't do that for us. It is time for you all to be on the right side of history. Either you are with us or against us. If you are against us, I hope you enjoy your last term as a council person. You wouldn't want this across the street from you or next door to your home, and we don't either. Protect the farmland in Delaware County. This will ruin the quality of life for citizens and create blight in the county. And on top of that, the fire deputy showed up and said they are in no way prepared to handle anything that would go wrong with this. And that's all that I have to say.
Thank
you. All right, next up is Janet Gernard. Gernand, sorry.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Janet Gernon, and I'm a constituent residing in Mount Pleasant Township. I come to you today not only as a concerned citizen, but as a mother and grandmother who is extremely concerned for my children and grandchildren's future food source, health, and welfare when it comes to installing large industrial scale solar power plants on prime agricultural farm ground in Delaware County. According to the American Farmland Trust study entitled Farms Under Threat, we permanently lose 175 acres every hour in America due to urban sprawl. Between 1992 and 2012, we lost 33 million acres, and of those, 11 million were prime acres. Prime farmland is the best land in the nation. There are only 3 states with over 50% of their land designated as prime farmland, and Indiana is one of them. Also, out of 92 counties in Indiana, there are only 12 counties that have over 90% of their land designated as prime farmland, and Delaware County is one of them. These 12 counties should never have large industrial solar power plants on any of their farmland. Also, are you aware that Madison County is the only county that was able to have an impact study performed by Professor Stephen Miller of Michigan State University? Professor Miller is an agricultural economist who has performed several studies for concerned citizens in Michigan of what happens when you take a certain amount of farmland out of agricultural production. It's important to understand that tax revenue promised to our county by solar developers is not new money. It only displaces an already existent income known as Indiana agriculture. Madison County is the only county in our state that has had this study performed, and all you need to do is read it, so please do so. And I would be happy to get that information to you. According to Professor Miller, taking 1,870 acres out of production from Madison County's prime farmland will result in a loss of over $2.3 million each year. Over the life of the project of 35 years, that's a loss of over $82 million. And Lone Oak Solar promised Madison County $24 million in tax revenue. This is extremely concerning because most people do not understand the major impact that agriculture has on Indiana's economy. I'm asking that this council please recommend to the Board of Commissioners a moratorium until we can do our own independent impact study and start studying the other side of this very important and serious issue. Our children and grandchildren's future food source depends on decisions that we're making today and in the days and months to come. We owe it to them, along with future generations, to do our due diligence in researching all sides of this issue. And I so much appreciate your time and attention in voicing my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you could send the Miller study to the email address on the agenda.
Okay, how do I get that?
Right there. That'll get all, either a link to it or the actual study.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, up next is Christopher Bilberry.
Good morning. Most of you are probably wondering why the last several people have came here today and talked to you guys about the solar issue. You guys don't have an abatement before you. There are no issues currently that you guys are dealing with this. But the last couple speakers that talked hit upon a very important point, and that's the moratorium. And obviously, that would be the job of the commissioners. But I want to talk to you guys today as a citizen of Delaware County, as a citizen of Hamilton Township, as someone who's been involved in politics since I've been 8 years old, as probably one of the most important positions in government that I hold, and that's the position of a citizen. And I, along with the rest of your constituents, are your employers. It's not like we have a half and half Republican, Democrat council or commissioners. Hell, we don't even have a half and half government. You guys, the entire government, save for the prosecutor and a judge, are Republican. And generally speaking, the auditor and the president of this council sit in here month after month after month, but besides being the auditor and the president, they are the chair and the vice chair of the Republican Party. And I'm asking you guys, as Republicans, to do your jobs and hold the other elected officials accountable, since you won't answer emails. Jessica, you refuse to answer emails. Just refuse to answer emails. It's gross and disgusting. And until you're willing to do that, I propose that we come and take over your meetings from now until we vote your asses out or you step down.
Watch your language, please.
You watch your language, I'll watch mine.
Don't swear, but okay.
Okay, I don't care if you swear or not. You're not me. But until you're willing to do your job, we'll take over every meeting. We'll continue to stack the bodies in here. And force you guys to do your jobs. When these people are saying they're fighting, listen, they are more put together than the Gaston people, and the Gaston people were put together. We will run you people from office, happily clapping, running you from office, unless you're willing to do. You're worried about my language. Why don't you stop speaking? I'm speaking. This is my turn. You can speak after I'm done. You've interrupted me a couple times. I'll finish up.
Wrap up your thought, please.
Thank you. Here's the deal. You're worried about my language. Worry about your jobs. Worry about the duty that you have to the citizens that you are failing on. You're failing. You're not good elected officials. I hope that you guys don't go home and think that you do a good job. You're failing the citizens. Period.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who didn't sign up that would like to speak?
Yeah, me.
Yes.
I just think you guys do a great job. I appreciate all Tommy Humbert, Delaware County Highway Department. I appreciate you guys all. Every time I ever call, need something, I appreciate you guys reaching out to me, getting back with me. I appreciate every one of you. We just got to all work together to be stronger, and I see that happening. And I said something to Matt the other day about it, and it's showing. So I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to comments from council. Do we have any comments from council?
Well, I do. So there's a couple things that I wanted to address. Some of it I was going to say anyway, and then others from the content of the council meeting that's went on. So first thing I want to say is this has been a long meeting, and I appreciate each and every one of you come up here, probably took the day off, and sit up here and voice your opinion. And you're right, we do not have no abatements before this council. I've not been aware of any that's been presented to this council. I've pledged that obviously I'm against solar, and that any abatement comes our way, I will do my part to vote it down and kill it, and hopefully convince everyone else to join me in that battle. But that's not happened yet. But I wanted to thank you all for sitting through a long, boring meeting and waiting your turn to voice your opinion so your voice can be heard. You're right, this ain't the right meeting. But the people who are the ones who can make a difference are just a couple feet down the hall, and they watch these meetings and they hear. So I encourage you all to speak up wherever you can get your message out, wherever you can get your voices out. This meeting, commissioners meeting, doesn't matter, get your voice out. So I respect you for that. The other thing, President Piper at the end of the meeting did something very important. She said, and this is one of the things I'm very proud of for our particular council, we have this incorporated in our rules. And she said, is there anyone else here who hasn't yet spoken who wants to speak? And the reason we do that is because a lot of the people that come to these meetings, they don't know the process. They don't know there's a sheet out front to sign up. Hell, they've never even been involved in a government meeting, let alone know that they need to sign up. So, Ms. Gernon, I am going to apologize to you for you abruptly not being allowed to speak at the commissioners meeting last week. You waited through the meeting just like everybody else did. Fortunately, you didn't sign your name up, which I think shouldn't matter it anyway. So I'm sorry you didn't get to speak, and I'm glad you got an opportunity to put your opposition on the record today. I would encourage any county government that does meetings to follow our model and give everyone an opportunity to speak. And I'm glad that President Piper, it's been a long meeting. Could have been easy to say, you guys are saying the same things, let's move on with it. But I'm glad that this council's allowed everyone the opportunity to do that. And I hope everyone follows that model. The other thing I was going to say, it's easy when we're talking about $10,000 here and $10,000 there. It's really a drop in the bucket compared to some of the other expenses. But I know citizens who are barely getting by with their grocery bill, their tax bill, and to them $10,000 is still a lot of money. So I take it very seriously when we can save $10,000 for things that may make our lives as employees or officials easier. And I challenge everybody as a public servant and in local government to just keep that in mind. It's not about making our jobs or lives easier. It's about managing the money of the citizens and doing it in a proper and efficient way. And if we can save $10,000, then let's save $10,000. A couple of things we did today were just upgrades, more convenience. And if I was a citizen sitting out there, I'd be doing the math, adding it up. You know, it adds up. Last thing I was going to say, and this is just an opinion piece, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but it come up a couple times. You know, a lot of our expenses that we get are related to the court system, right? We got to operate a court system. We got to operate a legal system. It's just part of government, right? And we have an excellent prosecutor, probably one of the best in the state. You know, he's not one of those type of prosecutors that is soft on crime, and we're all thankful for that. They've made a position that they're going to lead the state in prosecuting people who deal when someone else passes away. And I'm going to share my belief on that. I don't really support that much because, you know, not a lot of you guys know, probably half of my council members don't even know. I myself was an addict for 5 years, and, you know, it's easy to become one. You have a couple accidents, you get prescribed some medication, before you know it, you're addicted, and life turns to shit, you know, but you try to fight your way out of it. And some of these people who are getting hemmed up in this, they're not big drug dealers. They're just a person who's gotten a bad spot. They're probably helping out who they think is their friend, their other drug buddy. Next thing you know, they're up the river for 40 years. So I can support cleaning up the streets and you know, making sure that everybody's safe. But I really kind of have to object to that approach. And it wasn't something I was going to talk about, but it come up on the record a couple times today. And it's just not something I really believe in. I don't really think it's going after the right people we need to get. But that's all I have. Thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you guys share your objections more, and I hope to join you in helping spread those objections. And I encourage you to continue the pressure of the commissioners, and I hope they change the ordinance, and let's roll up the red carpet for corporate companies for industrial solar in Delaware County, and let's send the message that industrial solar in Delaware County is closed. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Relative to the Royerton project or any other solar projects, Colleen, have any of them applied pre-application or applications that you're aware of to date?
We have had introductory.
Colleen, do you mind going to the microphone? I'm sorry.
Kylene Swackhammer, Planning Commission. So we have had introductory meetings with several of the solar companies, but we have had no official pre-application meetings or anything like that on record. We have had no applications filed. The pre-app meeting does need to take place at least 30 days before an application is submitted, and we have not had one of those.
Okay. Is there a public notice, a time frame also? And does that happen first before the pre-application?
It can kind of coincide. The notice for the requirement for the public notice is that within 3 months of applying, that the company at least reaches out and does an introductory, here's our company, here's our intent, here's our intended project, so to speak. And then there will be more public notice. And that will be the normal public notice that happens with a special use application, because this will still need to go to the Plan Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals to be approved as a special use.
Thank you.
I have a question, please. So how do you reach out to the public if and when this process starts?
So
I think from what I'm hearing, a lot of people just didn't have any idea what was going on until it really was too late on the first go around. So I think everybody, or many of the people in this room, would like to know what the process is, so they can become involved as well as this could potentially progress.
yeah, and honestly, there's no guidelines as far as along the development process of, we are not even involved in that. Our office is not even involved in that. So basically it is left to these companies if they want to do public outreach, if they want to, some of them are having like some informational sessions.
But if they come, I'm interrupting, I apologize. But if they come to you and are wanting to do something, the public has to be given notice, does it not, by you, not by them?
If they are coming to submit an application, we give notice for the special use application.
And how do you do that, please?
So that is when the application is filed, we send a public notice, a letter from our office.
To,
And that goes out to everyone within, 3 miles or 2 properties deep, whichever's greater. So
not to the newspaper.
the notice of the meeting is in the newspaper as well. But that will not be until an application is filed for a special use case.
Haven't they already filed that application?
No.
No, okay.
No. The ordinance is set in place, but the ordinance still says these facilities cannot happen unless they are granted a special use variance.
And so you're the first party, the planning commission is the first party involved in this process?
Yes, so that will go before the plan commission at one of their meetings. They are able to give a favorable or unfavorable recommendation to BZA. BZA is then the body that will make the decision of approved or not approved.
Now, I know the individuals I've spoken to are frustrated that there's no contact information for the BZA members. And in talking to Bill Hughes, it's because they're a quasi judicial board, is that correct?
Correct.
So it's illegal to lobby the BZA.
Any communication can come through our office. Any emails, phone calls, things that we get, we are keeping track of, that information will be made available to the committee members.
And that can become part of the record, that they make their decision based on that record.
Yes.
So any communication.
Yes. And then at those meetings, there is opportunity for public comment for or against any case that's on the agenda. But the normal Plan Commission BZA does not have an open public forum for general comments. It's just what they are making a decision on at that meeting.
The only agenda items.
Yes.
But they take the recommendation from the planning commission?
They get a recommendation from the Planning Commission that they can take into account however they want. They don't have to go along with that.
So they're the board that makes the final decision, but there's no mechanism for a citizen to lobby them on how they want them to make that decision.
At the meeting.
Through us.
Through the planning commission,
At the meeting or through the planning
So it's
commission.
based off your recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Do they typically follow your recommendation?
We don't, our office doesn't give the recommendation. The Plan Commission board provides the recommendation because
And
they're the
can be-
voting
And
board.
they can be lobbied. The planning commission members can be lobbied.
I don't know on
Could be
that.
contacted, you could provide information to them individually, yes. And to your point, Ryan, special uses are pretty rare, so you can't say that they commonly follow the recommendation of the planning commission or not. They don't have very many, I don't know.
And it works like you call it a judicial body in essence. It's as if the prosecutor and defense both present it and the judge makes the final decision. That's ultimately what the BZA is about. So I appreciate you, Kylie, coming up and answering that. I hope those in the tennis probably got a little bit more information than they've received in some other meetings, just from that. So thank you.
Yeah. And one more thing, we do provide all that communication to them. Basically what we kind of do a case analysis for the board and present that to them. So we are presenting them with all the information that we've gathered, all the facts, how it relates to the ordinance. But once again, our office doesn't recommend.
So, and that's a key point. So thank you. And you don't have to answer this, but ultimately you guys are making a recommendation based on what's in the ordinance and whether that project is going to follow what's in that.
Yes.
So the ordinance, the components of the ordinance ultimately are the factors.
The ordinance contains there are 5 factors that the Board of Zoning Appeals takes into account, and anyone's interested should review those. And one final point, the decision of the Board of Zoning Appeals can be appealed to the local circuit court. but it's based on that record. The circuit court doesn't hear evidence fresh. They take the record that was made before the Board of Zoning Appeals and determine whether the board complied with the law.
But again, they're basing it off of law and ordinance, not citizens' objections.
Except if you read the ordinance, the 5 standards, very much depend on citizen input, in my opinion.
And Kylene's email address is on the Plan Commission website, the Board of Zoning website, and you can also find the ordinance on the Plan Commission's website, I think is where I found it. There's a link to that PDF so you can view it at any time. I know I've sent that off to a few folks too, so, yes.
Thanks, Colleen. I have one other comment.
Yep.
To Mr. Bilbrey's point, obviously I adamantly disagree with his assessment of this council. I think that once we're presented with the abatement components that we were presented with last year and the amount of work that we're trying to put in relative to avoiding these things from coming about in the future, lends itself that everybody on this council has taken seriously the concerns that have been expressed and are working diligently to make sure that we're making the proper choices moving forward. So, and then to clarify one point relative to the 2 projects that had come before this council in years past relative to abatements, they were under an economic development agreement, which also would pay $200,000 a year each project to the county. So a total of $2 million in each case. That's different than the property tax components that we would not receive additional funds. That is correct. We are at our max levy. There is no money to be had. The surrounding citizens could potentially have their property taxes lowered, but the county was not going to be receiving any additional money other than what was built into those additional agreements. This current Royerton project does not have an economic development agreement. It has, I think, potentially approached our commissioners or economic development folks. They've, in essence, have not heard from them in almost a year, so we don't expect that to come to fruition here before us based on the timing that we heard about in the meeting last week. So I just implore everybody to continue to do what we mentioned in that meeting last week about, setting up and organizing and communicating your concerns and doing just that. And I think I can speak for everybody when we say, everyone here is taking that seriously.
Anyone else?
And please keep us informed. I think you think we know more than we do. I have had no contact from National Grid, was that the name? I'd never heard that name before. I've had no contact from anyone representing them. So everything I know about it, I learned more about it today than I've known before. So please keep us informed.
Yeah.
I understand, but I'd never heard of that company before. Okay, thank you.
All right, so budget hearings start next week on Wednesday. We'll be here bright and early. That day typically is a full day. And then we'll pick back up on Thursday. We'll see where we stand if we need to meet on for
8:30.
8:30. Yeah, there's a public hearing before. At least I think there should be. Is it on the agenda? I haven't even seen it. Okay. And then I'll send out a message to everyone so we can figure out snacks so we have things to eat. But otherwise, our next regular scheduled county council meeting is Tuesday, September 24th at 9 a.m. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Eugene. Roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right, and we are adjourned. Thank you.